the season blends into the embrace of spring, the heat turns up with some of the best short track sim racers ready to take on a scorching 7-month tilt that all starts tonight. We're live from the virtual Irwindale Speedway. We welcome you to race one of a short track doubleheader for the Misfit Racing League, the opener of the Misfit Touring Summer Series. Up first at Irwindale, we're glad to have you join us on Podium Esports, where alongside Scott Chive in the booth, I'm Kenneth Bueno. Ryan Bauer, our great producer tonight, he'll be using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Scott, Irwindale and Slinger, two iconic short tracks in the United States of America. Lots of fun to drive in sim. They get to live forever as well. Two different cars on tap for tonight's two-race event. We have a doubleheader with the Summer Series starting at Irwindale, and then at Slinger we'll have the SRX All-Star Shootout Series coming to you later tonight. The common thread, Scott, we're going to have a lot of fun with the short track racing this evening.
I am so excited about it. You know me, you know I love short track stuff, and these MRL guys, they never stop. We just finished up with the Triple Crown, then we finished up with Season 1, did a few off-season events, and now we're back. These guys, they never stop racing. They always love it. Tonight we've got the late model stock that we've known from the regular Season 1 touring series, SRX, and that is going to be very different because we've never had that here, but here we are for the LMC race at Irwindale.
This is the first of 7 races in this Misfit Tour Series. We'll get you through the schedule in just a couple of moments, but this track only at a half mile. We're using the outer circuit, not the inner. That's a little shorter, but this track at half miles, 0.804 kilometers, 6 to 12 degrees in the bankings through turns 1 and 4. This was rebranded to the Irwindale Event Center over in California. But Scott, one thing that demonstrates this track well, other than the figure 8 track that you always can have a lot of fun with on iRacing, but other than that, this track only has a 6 to 12 degrees, but keep an eye on the different grooves of racing. Top side, middle, and even somewhat the very bottom under that white line on the apron. It can give you a lot of opportunities, Scott, to make moves and make passes, especially with these cars that have a good amount of downforce, and you can be able to rotate them using the rear wheels.
This track is very flat, somewhat of a deal of Martinsville that we know is a flatter style short course. But also, one thing I want to say just about looking at this track map, this is the most like oval racetrack that I've ever seen, that we've ever raced at. If you think of an oval racetrack for stock cars, well, Irwindale is it. But yes, it opens up a lot of moves for passing, and these guys being able to do that. Lots of lines being run by these guys through the race, just practicing different lines. You can run up top here, you can run all the way down below that white line, all the way to the yellow line. So these guys throughout the race will be running different lines, but I imagine here in qualifying they'll all be running a similar line to try to get that fastest lap, because only the top 5 will advance to our feature, Kenneth.
Here is where qualifying becomes of the utmost importance. And on track first, going to be Jared Sutherland in the number 19 machine, taking the start-finish line, wrapped around with the Ford Mustang Skull colors on his late model stock tonight. First qualifying effort at a 17.481. Now, of course, qualifying will matter for the heat races, and as we move forward throughout tonight, Scott, we'll give you all of the details of how these drivers are going to qualify. There is going to be a top 6 invert by the time we get to the feature, so if you do win a heat race, you will put yourself in the top 6. If you win heat 1, you'll be starting on the pole. Here is Michael Ostdijk in the number 21 machine, taking the track first. And Scott, you mentioned lines where drivers are going to take different opportunities and different approaches to the corner. Here, Ostdijk uses the very bottom under that apron, just using all of the available asphalt to put in his lap. That's going to be faster than Sutherland's time. Put in a 17.368 to start.
That bottom line, at least for qualifying, seems to be the fastest line, but now you'll see Michael run this top, dive down to the middle, and scoot back to the top. So a different line, trying to find something different, maybe to see if he has some more speed, but his first lap is going to be faster with a 17.368. Still going for yet another one here. Now back to the bottom, all the way down to that yellow line. You have to get so slow, slips off the bottom a little bit, up to the wall, coming across the line. Can he improve on his time? No, he cannot with a 7. He can actually, just a little bit faster with a 17.31.
17.31 for Ostdijk, so improves a bit and still remains about a 10th over Sutherland's time that sits at a 17.481. Here is the community director for the Misfit Racing League, number 24, Kyle Adams, the driver out of Wisconsin, the owner of Misfit Productions and Hotshot Photography, the 30-year-old taking it through turns 1 and 2, ripping the high side, and this is really where qualifying gets its name, as using all available surface on the track, and of course using the lanes that you can with these cars. You see the drivers using the very high side, Scott, to get as much momentum as possible, and then just curling it all the way to the very inside. That's where you see all that rubber built up under the apron, where you wouldn't normally see it, but through practice and qualifying, drivers are using that line to get every bit of speed. For Adams, it's going to be a 17.314, just 4 1/1000ths off of Ostdike's top of the board time.
Great lap there for that 24 of Kyle Adams. Always has some stellar paint schemes. He is so good. But now out on track, we've got the 33 of Justin Brooks. One thing I want to mention about him, fastest in practice. We saw him just a few weeks ago win our South Boston Series event here with MRL. We know that he's been fast. Haven't seen him much before here in MRL, but he's here to start the Summer Series, and he's here to make a statement. Because as we know, through MRL, Jake Sylvia has always been the fast guy, but Justin Brooks looking to change that as he goes with a 17.024, 3/10 faster than Michael Ostadek.
He was running 17 flats in practice and runs a 17 flat right out of the gate in qualifying. Justin Brooks, the 2024 Spring Classic winner at South Boston several weeks ago, is going to be on the pole for now. And it's going to be up to Tanner Berge and his number 35 machine and everyone else to see if they can stop him and put a time better on the top of the board. There goes the 35, and it turns 1 and 2 out through the back straightaway, just rising that car out of the corner. And Scott, one thing that we do notice about these late model stocks, and you have a lot of experience with these cars in the sim, is of course all of the power. You can kick the rear end sideways so easily. 17.333 for Berge on his first lap.
That's one of the reasons that this bottom line is the fastest there, Kenneth. When you cut across that apron there, when you go to that from the banking to the flat, it upsets the rear a little bit almost, and you're able to rotate your rear of the car just a little bit faster than you would if you stuck to that apron. That's one of the reasons that we'll see that it's fastest, because you're able to rotate the car. Tanner puts down a 17.33, currently sits fourth.
Not able to improve on his first set lap, so Berge will sit fourth on qualifying charts. Here's the number 39, Alex Papini, in his Chevrolet. That's the late model stock, and there is the Chevrolet Camaro decals on the front end of that late model stock. Beautiful spec map chrome with number 39 for Papini tonight. Rises out of turn 4, crosses the line, 17.063. The second driver so far in qualifying to get into the 17 flats, just about 4 100ths off of Justin Brooks' time so far. Papini down into 3 and 4, using all available asphalt, kicking out the rear end and crossing the line. This one a little slower, 17.202 for Papini, but a good start. And of course, Scott, at a track like Irwindale, where it can be pretty difficult to pass despite all of the available grooves, you probably want to have a pretty high qualifying start. You want to make sure that you can have as much track position as possible, especially knowing how chaotic the heats can get.
You want to make that feature. Of course, you want to be in that top 5 because, yes, like you said, those heats can absolutely be chaotic, and they always are, especially with these MRL guys. They race hard. These guys, again, like we said, they don't take breaks. They love to race, all of these guys, and they race hard, they race good. So you definitely don't want to be in those heat races. As we'll see, Michael, he'll put down a 17.50, probably warming up the tires a little bit on that lap, going for a little bit faster here, but that 74 car looking good. Got 1 win in the regular season of the Touring Series, had 8 top 10s, 8 top 5s, and 10 top 10s. So Michael Weissman, a fast driver, but doesn't quite have the qualifying that he wants here, Kenneth.
Gonna have to get the blistering pace through the heat races, as he sets a 17.5, so that's gonna put him at the very bottom of the 7 driver list of guys who have qualified so far. And also too, the decals on the front end of Weissman's number 45 is a redesigned Pontiac Firebird Trans Am. It was a redesigned car that used the platform of the Chevrolet Camaro and went to a bunch of car shows showing the new design of a company looking to revive that Trans Am brand after Pontiac went belly up back in 2008. Here is Corey Vaughn in the 54. Look at that tight race car in the 3 and 4. Could not get it to rotate out of the corner, so it might result in a pretty slow lap, and it does. 18 flat for the 54 Flying Aces Chevrolet Camaro. The 54 will dive in at 3 and 4, looking to get a better rotation into the corner and just misses the very bottom. So again, Scott, that's going to scrub off a lot of time. Just could not get the car to rotate, and the lap is better, but not by much. 17.860 keeps him down in 8th.
Just looks like Corey Vaughn there is just too tight, has to slow up too much to get that car to rotate, just sliding it through the corner, scrubbing off a lot of speed, like you said. Now we've got the 67 of Chris Story. Seen this paint scheme a few times last year throughout the Touring Series. Always thought it was really cool with that intricacy of the 67 interstate sign, sharp design there on the side. But Chris Story looking to make it into this feature, and like you said, not have to go to that heats as he runs the bottom line.
Looking to make the story a top qualifying effort. Comes out at turn 4, and his first try. The lap will be a 17.181. Good start, puts him 3rd. A little off of Papini's 17.062. A look on board with the story, just wrestling this race car and looking to get it rotated down in that yellow line and looking to get the tightest line possible. The 67 comes out at turn 4, not better on his second lap. He'll stay with a 17.181. What's the most difficult part, Scott, about rotating this car? Because Irwindale, I mean, especially with how this track operates with these cars specifically, you have to go all the way down to the bottom. You probably won't use the very top line near the outside wall unless maybe you can garner some speed there. But for the most part, you're looking at the shortest way around the racetrack. How difficult is it to properly brake, then turn at the same time, and find a way to get that car arched down as we see Dylan Calabro take the track?
It's really such a fine art, Kenneth. What we know about these cars is they are tighter cars compared to a lot of other stock cars that we see. We know of the super late model is an extremely loose car that you're fighting throughout a run, trying to find that limit, but sometimes the late model stock can find the limit for you. Now, luckily here in Misfit Racing League and for the Summer Touring Series, this is an open setup series, so these guys are able to tweak on things and find their own looseness as Dylan Calabro goes second on the boards with a 17.19. Great lap for him, hoping to stay there in that top 5. But again, it's very difficult to rotate just because of the way these cars are. But luckily, you can have a setup that you can set up looser and be able to rotate for longer. But another thing, Kenneth, as this race goes on through the heat races and mainly through the feature, your car will get tighter over a run.
And also, too, the track temperature will change, the sun will set, and look how loose Tyler Murray is off the corner, slapped the wall into turn 2. We're not entirely sure whether this first lap will be invalidated as a result, but he did get a pretty big smack off the right rear of his number 78 machine, goes for a 17.980. Will scrub off this lap, gets a better exit out of 2, but that car is a little out of shape. Dives into 3 and 4. The Sun Prairie, Wisconsin native, looking to get a better lap. He is scorching the tires off the corner, and it will be an improvement. 17.185. Scott, Tyler had to work hard for that one.
Tyler Muller, again, another really fast driver, got one win back in the regular touring season, 8 top 5s, 11 tops 10s. We know he's really fast and has finished second in the championship, so looking to put a good one down there. Out sits 4th, so close to that cut line for our who make the feature from qualifying. But out here, the 88 of Dylan Delaney also looking to make it in.
The 26-year-old out of Deerfield, Wisconsin, gonna get a good run out of 4. Will look to set his first lap at a 17.416. Looking to improve here, misses the bottom in 1 and 2, and this paint scheme sort of reminds me of the Bowman Gray Invitational race that we had several months ago, because he's got Cadillac details on the front and back of his late model stock car. 17.332, a slight improvement, but ties with Tanner Berge for a position inside the top 8. So Delaney will have 8th place, will get it over Berge. As here is Sean Urich and the 97 next up to go.
You talk about that Cadillac. I don't remember who it is in this series, but there's one guy, he runs a BMW, and I can't remember who it is. I don't know if he's here tonight. It might be Deegan Smith. I'm not sure, but I know there's a BMW that is running the touring series. But Talking about Sean Urich here, man, he is fast. We saw him win at Slinger when we were in our Triple Crown Showdown back after the regular season for MRL. We know that he is fast as he puts down a 17.19, puts him 6th on the board. Personally, I've raced against him recently in the late model stock, and we had a great race against each other. It was really fun to race against him. He's a clean racer, and man, he's good and he is fast. Can't quite improve on his second time. Gonna sit 6th, so he's gonna have to fight it out in the heat.
Sean is going to be excited about later tonight. He's going to race into the SRX All-Star Shootout Series race at Slinger in just a couple of hours, as here is Jacob Alexander with a huge W on the side and the front end of his late model stock car. Number 251 crosses the line out of 4. This is going to be his first official lap. We're seeing the differing lines of the way this track changes. Alexander loose. He saves it out of turn 2, keeps it off the outside wall, but he's going to scrub this first lap. He says, all right, I lost enough time there. Let me run up high, get the momentum out of 4. So Alexander has one more shot at a good lap.
He's going to abandon that first one, knew he would have no speed, resets, runs the top, good exit out of 2 there, much better than his first lap, going to cut down to the bottom. He just can't quite hold the bottom there, real tight through the entry. This is not going to be the lap that Jacob wants. Will be faster though than his first one. Actually, a better lap than I thought, a 17.30. So even though he was tight through 3 and 4 there, couldn't hold the bottom, still a great lap from that W car, and Jacob Alexander is hoping that W will hold up for tonight.
Showing you how differently set up these cars are with each and every driver. Some are able to rotate the car quite easily. Some of them are having a harder time trying to get that car all the way to the bottom. So either they get to the very inside white line or they're all the way near the grass with the left side tires. As next up is the number 1 machine of Brett McCoy. Big number 1 on the side of his Chevrolet Lumina. Has the old school decals on the front and back of this late model stock car. McCoy pretty stable out of the final corner. This one going to be a 17.4, but this is the most important lap. Going to ride that inside line. Tires screeching at the exit of turn 2, but is able to keep this car under full capacity and full stability. Sharper entry to 3 and 4, comes out of the 4th corner this time by. A very big improvement. 17.113 puts Brett McCoy to 3rd.
Wow, huge improvement there from the Lumina car of Brett McCoy. Never seen that old Lumina decal on these cars, but actually, I think it looks really cool, the front lights and the tail lights. But Brett McCoy, absolutely great lap for him, hoping to stay in that top 3. But now, Ed Papineau, number 10 car, chrome letters, yellow paint scheme. We'll be able to see him all night long if he can make it into this feature race, because that is a bright car and I'm here for it. But he's putting down a heater right now, rolling out down on the middle, trying to gain some speed, Kenneth.
And on the back of the car, it says, I should be golfing. So Ed Papineau thinking about the golf swing here, but this is going to be the swing into turns 1 and 2, and a bit wide at the exit of the 2nd corner. Going to look to the back straightaway and arc it all the way down. Similar lines everyone's trying to approach with, but as the session changes in qualifying, it's becoming a little more difficult for drivers to fully get it down there. 17.332, so make it a 3-way tie with 17 threes by Delaney, Berge, and now Papineau inside the top 10.
Wow, you don't see that very often. We go all the way down to the thousandths of a second here on our timing sheets, and it is so hard to match up all 5 of those numbers, especially the last 3 and thousandth of a second. Now, I really wonder if Papineau is better at racing or golfing. That's a real question. I've only ever seen him race, and he's pretty darn good at that, so I wonder how his golf game is. But out on track now, putting down his lap, is that 11 car of Randy Sargent out there with that black and white car with that Will Wood brakes, and that I don't know why that yellow spoiler just sticks out to me.
It's so bright, very neon yellowish color as Sargent comes out of turn 2. This looks to be a pretty solid lap, and one of the drivers that has one of his cars in control, but some drivers looking to get on the edge of control here. Here's the 11 out of 4. First lap clocks in 17.198. A great start for Sargent. We'll see if he can keep this momentum up through the 2nd lap. His attempt in 3 and 4 looks solid. Goes down to the apron, misses the very bottom, and comes out of the final corner with enough momentum to carry this lap coming in. 17.539, so way slower, but Sargent would be happy with his first lap. That's going to put him in 8th, and here's the driver next up on the board, the legend car owner and driver, the number 12, Jake Sylvia for Jake Sylvia Racing.
Well, number 12 on our sheets, but he's actually number 1 on his car. Some of these guys, they mix up the numbers when they register and when they make their paint schemes. So Jake Sylvia, while we know him as the number 12, he'll be the number 1 on his paint scheme. But Jake Sylvia, our regular season champion for Misfit Touring Series, we know he is so fast. Legend car driver, legend car owner up in Rhode Island, and man, he is always bad fast when he comes out here. His first lap, it's going to be a 17.485, so probably warming up, maybe looking for a bit faster here on his second one. But what we know, no matter where Jake Sylvia qualifies, he's going to find his way to this feature race, and he's going to be up at the front no matter what, if he starts first or starts last.
Here's a 17.199 for Sylvia, puts him right under Randy Sargent. It's going to put him in 9th place. Deegan Smith in the 15 next to qualify. Race control will give him the go-ahead to take his Chevrolet, or Cadillac, that is a brand owned by the people at Chevrolet and General Motors, but the Cadillac comes out of turn 2 and will try to put in this first lap in just several moments. One thing about Jake Sylvia, his reflexes and his short track ability is so sharp. He's able to find his way through a lot of short track races and be one of the fastest out of the racetrack. Extreme skill out of Sylvia, but he's going to have to work pretty decently for a good qualifying start, as he is in 9th. Here's Deegan Smith fighting the wheel out of turn 4, getting to the start-finish line. This first lap clocks in a 17.467, good enough to get him into the top 16. We're going to look to improve. A lot of drivers who said pretty blistering laps here at Irwindale are setting their first laps in the 17.4s or 17.3s. Nice arc in a 3 and 4, crosses the line 17.198, just 1/1000 Scott better than Jake Sylvia.
Well, Deegan Smith, another driver that we know is fast, got 3 wins in the regular season for season 1 of Misfit Touring. So Deegan Smith, while maybe not the qualifying that he wanted, Kenneth, at a 17.199, putting him 9th, we know that he is going to fight it out in these heat races and yet again find his way to the feature. But now we've got the 17 of Ty Dennis out there making his laps.
Ty Dennis, the driver out of Burlington, Wisconsin, the 28-year-old, will get a high arc into 3 and 4, and this should be the setup for the second lap. A lot of drivers are sort of extinguishing, Scott, the first lap just so they can focus more on the second, but Dennis is extremely understeery. That car wanted to shoot straight for the outside wall. He's forced to use the middle line. He's trying his dearest to bring that car lower, but the car does not want to respond. A slow time here for Dennis. 17.407 will put him right under Ed Papineau.
Well, not the lap he wanted, definitely, like we're talking about now. As we'll wrap up qualifying here, that will put Justin Brooks, at least before the invert, on our poll, but Alex Papini, Brett McCoy, Dylan Calabro, and Tyler Muller will all advance to the feature. Everyone else will have to battle it out in our heat races.
So here's a look at the results from qualifying. Everyone chasing Justin Brooks. 38 of a second over Papini and Tyler Muller and everyone else in second, third, and following through the top 5 and top 10. So it's going to be really fun to see who can beat Brooks on the way to the checkered flag as we push forward into our first 15-lap heat race of the evening. We'll have several of them for you on tap tonight before we get the LCQ, and then of course have our feature from lap 1 to lap 200 here in Irwindale, California, where on the pole for heat number 1 will be the 67 of Chris Story. We'll take a Chevrolet to the green flag first alongside the 11 of Randy Sargent. Jake Sylvia, we saw him set a qualifying time not too long ago. He'll roll off inside row 2 with Michael Ostendijk in the number 21 on his outside. Flanking the inside and outside of row number 3 will be Dylan Delaney in his number 88 car, and the 10 of Ed Papineau, who just put a time inside the top 10. Jared Sutherland will be in 7th. Corey Vaughn will take the green flag from 8th, and rounding out your top 10 in the first heat of the night, Jake Grout didn't set a time in queue, and neither did Josh Paris. So they're going to have to work extra hard if they want all that track position for the feature race. So it will be Chris Story, Randy Sargent to lead us to the first green flag of heat racing here from Irwindale. And these races really aren't long at a half-mile short track. Scott, your thoughts on the keys to victory in the heat and to get pole in the feature race?
Don't get wrecked. That's really important here. 15 laps, as we know, our consolation race and our feature race will be a lot longer than these heat races, but these drivers can get really aggressive here in these heats because they know how short they are, they know how fast these laps tick away, and they also know that this might be one of their only chances. If they don't get in the top 7 here, they'll be sent to the consolation where only one will make it. So these guys are going to be very aggressive, Kenneth, and you're going to want to make sure that you don't get taken out or take yourself out.
Top 7 will advance. Green flag in the air. Story and Sargent take the green flag 2 by 2 at the entry of turn 1. Sylvia peeks in for second. Cars loose at the exit of turn 2. We're almost about 3 wide, at least momentarily, through the rest of the top 10. Diving inside is Chris Story, holds on to the lead while Sylvia and Sargent continue the bout for second.
Story is loving that Sargent and Sylvia are side by side right now. They're going to continue to slow each other down, but Randy Sargent takes it on the outside. A little contact for the lead between him and Chris Story, but Story will hold it. Sylvia with a run on the back, and then the 21 of Osterdijk, all right there. These top 4 are extremely close together, Kenneth.
Sargent about got jumped at the exit of 4. Car stepped out, got loose, and had to gather it together. Sylvia and Michael Osterdijk took advantage while the 21 held back. Sylvia is underneath for second. Meanwhile, they're letting Chris Story pull away with the race lead. Now you add Papineau, Delaney, and several other drivers that can mix inside the top 5. Sylvia remains loyal to the inside lane in 3 and 4. It just goes to show you, Scott, that the progressive banking can be used any which way. Drivers are using the middle, yet they're still able to beat Sylvia off the corner.
Well, right now, 3-way battle back in the back for our transfer position. The 88 of Dylan Delaney has fallen back a little bit, and the 55 of Josh Paris trying to take it away from him, but they're really close right here. This is the battle. Everyone up front ahead of these guys is locked in, but right now the 54 and the 55 would be the 2 transfer cars, and the 88 would be out.
Vaughn holding on to 6th for now. Jake Sylvia able to snag away 2nd place from Randy Sargent, Michael Osterdijk, and then the car right behind them, and Ed Papineau closing out the top 5. Look at the gap between the 10 of Papineau and the 55 of Parrish, who started dead last in this heat race. Vaughn and Delaney going side by side. This is again the transfer spot with about 8 laps to go.
Vaughn had a really tight car in qualifying. I imagine he's fighting that condition right now. As you see, he just can't quite get to the bottom. Delaney able to hold that yellow line, gain some speed, but that outside has momentum, and Corey Vaughn is able to hold off Delaney for now, but Delaney charges on the inside.
Delaney qualified 17th out of the drivers that put in a queue time over the 2 laps, and Delaney trying his hardest to maintain an inside foothold to get around that 54 car. Meanwhile, Sylvia has cleared the rest of the competition 3rd on back and is charging on your race leader, but it will be difficult to make this pass. A rise out of 2. Sylvia has the nose underneath the 1 car to the bottom of the 67. Story has to play defense. Sylvia to the front. We're still door to door with 5 to go.
Story has a big run on the outside, but Sylvia is trying to slide up. Yes, he'll slide up in front of Story. Does Story have anything to give back? Got a little bit of a run here, but he won't take it. Sylvia takes the lead. Story to the bottom.
Again, this is for pole in the feature race, but even if you finish second, you're going to be glad you advanced to the feature regardless. Story is going to have to play his cards tactfully if he wants to win this heat or stay in second and have a pretty good starting spot by the time we get to this feature race. Meanwhile, Corey Vaughn has holding of the transfer spot. Delaney loose and was not able to catch up, but a wash up by Vaughn out of 4 might help Delaney's cause, but the time is running out, coming in 2.5 laps to go.
Delaney still charging hard on that 54 car. Corey Vaughn just doesn't have the speed right now. Delaney does, but with that slip up, could it have compromised his opportunity to make it in? He dives to the inside now, on the inside of Corey Vaughn for our transfer position.
We're going to be door to door there. There's a look at the 88 and the 54, officially side by side. This is going to come down to the wire while Jake Sylvia has pulled out to almost a second over Chris Story. White flag is out at the end of heat number 1. Vaughn has to run out the corner. Here comes the 88 of Delaney down low. He's going to stay behind, but he's only going to have half a lap to make an effort to get into the feature while Jake Sylvia strolls to the win in heat 1. Delaney is too short of 7th place in the transfer. Corey Vaughn advances to the feature.
Man, Delaney had the speed, but those few critical mistakes allowed Corey Vaughn to run his line and run his pace, and he was able to get that transfer spot just barely over Delaney.
Here's a look at the results from Heat 1. Jake Sylvia getting around Chris Story in the waning laps and pulling away to win by at least a second. Story in 2nd place. Sargent, great 3rd place effort. Michael Alsteig and Josh Parrish round out the top 5. Parrish had the move of his life through Heat 1, starting all the way in the back and finishing inside 5th. And Papineau falls to 6th. Then Corey Vaughn, the last driver to enter the feature from the transfer spot. Dylan Delaney, Jared Sutherland, and Jake Prout. The rest of your field in Heat 1 will have to scrap through the LCQ if they want a shot at getting to the 200-lapper tonight at Irwindale. With that, we reset and start with a brand new grid for Heat number 2. Another 15 laps on the docket, where the 97 of Sean Urich will lead the field to green alongside Dean Smith in the number 15. Jacob Alexander in that fan-inspired paint scheme, the number 251 starts 3rd. Kyle Adams in the number 24 will roll off from the 4th spot on the outside of row 2. Tanner Berge in the 35. We saw him bounce around through qualifying and near the bubble most of the time. He's inside the top 5 with Ty Dennis to his outside. Rounding out the rest of the Heat 2 grid will be Michael Weissman in the number 45, Alex Grates in the number 18, and AJ Maglio in 9th place. Should be a little more interesting here, Scott, just because we have one less driver, so that fight for 7 is going to be really fun.
Oh, absolutely. We have Alex Grates. Not sure if he's on track right now. He's in our session, but not sure if he's gridded up. So might be out, might be in. But we'll have one less here to fight for. And again, that 8th and 9th position, they will not be able to transfer. So if you finish back behind that 7th position, you will have to go to the consolation race like Delaney, Sutherland, and Grout will have to, who just couldn't quite get it done in Heat 1. But now we're set for Heat 2. Sean Urich and Deegan Smith, will they be able to stay up top? This winner of this heat race will start on, I believe we'll start 7th. So not quite the front row.
Looks like we'll have one less car. Alex K. Grates is not on the starting grid. There's a look at AJ Maglio from the rear of the field. It's going to be 8 cars to take the green flag. A bit staggered here and there, but we are doubled up for the first 3 rows regardless. Out of 4 to the green flag, Sean Urich and Deegan Smith to kick off Heat 2.
Sean takes it down low, but Deegan Smith has a power move on the outside. Big momentum, takes it away from Sean Urich, but can he hold it? Urich gonna dive all the way down to the bottom here, but can't quite have the momentum. Deegan's gonna do it on the outside.
And there's sort of an ideology to running the high lane in Irwindale. It is used a lot of times for the stock car side of things, but not much of these late model stocks, at least as we've seen tonight. But Deegan Smith, one of those to rip the top and make it work as he holds on to the lead over Kyle Adams, searching for first place. Sean Urich, the pole sitter in Heat 2, is dropped to 3rd place, with Jacob Alexander looking to fight for that 3rd spot. We are door to door for about 5th place between Berge and Weissman. Ty Dennis, the last car in this main group, is holding on to the final transfer spot over AJ Maglio. And pretty interesting here to see the 15 Scott running the very top and utilizing it to his advantage. Just a method to the madness, and it seems as though everyone else is following as the track is rubbered in quite a bit.
Really getting some great speed there, and this is might be something that we're going to see later on in our feature race. We've had qualifying and we've had Heat 1, and almost all of those times the guys were all over the bottom line. But now as this track is rubbered up over those sessions, now the top might be the lane to be in. So when we refresh for the race, this might be what we see, Kenneth. We might move from the bottom all the way to the top.
And look at the top 6 here. The only 2 drivers to run the inside lane is 2nd place Kyle Adams in effort to get to 1st place, and then Michael Weissman in the number 45 running that middle to bottom lane as well. There are some drivers that are cutting down in an effort to sort of arc down the corner and get sort of a diamond approach on the exit, put as much throttle in while keeping the car as straight as possible. But for the moment, that outside lane is prevailing. There's an onboard look with AJ Maglio has fallen off the pace just a little bit from Ty Dennis. Remember, since this is just an 8-car heat, since we lost Alex K. Grates and another driver in the mix while we were on the starting grid, Maglio was going to be the first driver out. Loose is Kyle Adams on the search for the lead.
He was making up some great ground there on Deegan Smith, just running a little bit of a lane lower than him, but lost it all right there on the exit of 2. Gonna have to regroup and try again as we are halfway through this heat race. But Sean Urich has now found some speed as he gets into the wall a little bit, scrubs some speed off the wall.
Runs the outside lane, and if Kyle Adams does cough up a mistake, Sean Urich will be there for the taking. That's what's so much fun, Scott, about short track racing, is that everyone is so close to each other because the distance really isn't covering all that much ground. So if you're a guy like Adams, you really have to play your cards correctly here, because as soon as you get loose, make a big mistake, there's the 97, there's the 251, and in a blink of an eye, if you make a big enough mistake, you could be out of the transfer.
Well, that's another thing I just love about short track racing. As a driver, you cannot make mistakes, Kenneth, and the minute you do, someone else will capitalize on them. So it's really, it's a style of driving where you have to be in such a mind of focus that I can't even describe the words for the mind of focus that you have to be when running a race like this, and just how locked in you have to be running every single inch of this racetrack.
It's a matrix decision you have to carefully think about, whether you want to attack for the lead and risk it getting into another driver or make a mistake, or you just go for it and you just stay back and at least hold on to second place. Kyle Adams is going to take the first option. He remains adamant on taking away the lead inside the final 2 laps to go here from Irwindale in heat number 2. We are door to door for the top spot. Keep in mind that purple and black number 97 still in the frame on the back straightaway. An onboard look with Adams coming to the white flag.
Adams thought about giving Deegan the slide job there, but thought it wasn't clear enough. 1 to go here at the line, side by side for the lead in our Heat 2 race.
Kyle Adams on the inside, a slide job effort on Smith. Not gonna happen. Smith is gonna stay there. Urich with a big dive in 3 and 4. We are 3 wide off the corner. Adams up high. Crossover for Smith. Banging doors to the line. Deegan Smith wins Heat 2.
I thought Adams was about to take them all out there, tried to keep the speed up on the exit of 4. Deegan Smith was able to slow up, get the crossover done. We'll take a replay here, look at it. Adams on the bottom, slides up in front. This is through the back straightaway. They're side by side, heading into 3 and 4. Urich dives down to the bottom. They're 3 wide. Then 24 throws it on the block. Deegan Smith has a great run, and they bang doors, and Deegan Smith takes it away.
Some fun physicality for the end of heat number 2. What a whale of fun that was between Smith and Adams. There's a look at the final results from heat number 2. Deegan Smith going to win barely over Kyle Adams in an almost photo finish to the line. Sean Urich going to hold on to a 3rd place position. Jacob Alexander back in 4th place. Michael Weissman to close out the top 5. Ty Dennis and AJ Maglio are going to complete the top 7. So for AJ, great recovery near the end to advance to the feature, and that is going to push several drivers back into the consolation race, which is going to be short-filled in terms of the entry list. Dylan Delaney is going to have the top spot alongside Tanner Berge. Jared Sutherland is set to start in 3rd. Alex Grates and Jake Grout are set to close out 5 cars in the consolation, but because Grates and Grout were not even able to take the track in the heats nor the LCQ, we're left with 3, which means, Scott, a 3-way fight for only 2 spots. Green flag in the air for the LCQ. 20 laps on tap from Irwindale. This feels like cars all over again.
2 of the 3 will make it, yes, but back then only 1 of them could win in that Cars 3-way race, but now 2 of them will be able to take it. Dylan Delaney gets a great jump, but Tanner Berge a run on the bottom, and they're side by side through 3 and 4.
Sutherland has to worry quite a bit. If he falls out of reach from these top two, it is going to be really difficult to find his way into the feature, and he's going to go home. Tanner Berge, Dylan Delaney remain door to door, and this is sort of the same method that we saw Kyle Adams use on Deegan Smith here, Scott, earlier in heat number 2, using the very bottom to sort of wash right in front of the driver. You get by and hope that the exit of the corner, whether it's turn 2 or turn 4, has enough momentum with it in order to carry the speed out of the corner and keep the position. You are at risk of having a driver cross over on the inside, but it's a risk, Scott, that these guys are willing to take.
The way to throw that move, it has to be executed almost perfectly as a driver. If you're going to do it, make it work, because what you really want to do is you want to eliminate that crossover. So to do that, when you dive down to the bottom and start sliding up, you want to be able to get your rear bumper almost tagging when you're flat behind them. You want them to tag their front bumper so they can't turn under you, Kenneth, and get that run. But to do that, it has to be the perfectly timed move. And if you time it any way wrong whatsoever, then your opponent is getting right into you and you're going around.
And you're playing the aerodynamic game too. If you can slide up in front of the driver in the middle of the corner, you could give them a bit of that dirty air to force them to roll out of the throttle, unless they're going to get into the outside wall if they keep that throttle input. Delaney and Berge have pulled away by several tenths over Jared Sutherland. And I want to correct myself here. I thought it was a Ford Mustang from the back end decals, but in fact that is a Ford Thunderbird, a classic one that this 19 car is rolling with, but he is still at risk of going home at Irwindale tonight. Tanner Berge and Dylan Delaney remain in those top 2 spots. They should advance to the 200 lap feature, although the real question, Scott, is whether Delaney has anything in the bag left to cook Tanner Berge in these final 12.
Well, we saw Tanner Berge, he was running around the 5th position in our Heat 2 race, and while we were so focused for the battle with the lead, something happened to him back in the back. I imagine maybe he got tagged, got loose, or something of that nature, and fell all the way to the back, and that gave AJ Maglio the chance to take the position away from him and stuck Tanner Berge back here in the back. But right now, we're seeing his speed. We're seeing some raw pace out of him as he's put down on his last lap a 17.5. So not a crazy amount of fall off here. So he's pretty fast, but Delaney charging on the back bumper.
Yeah, these are 2 Misfit drivers that caught a bit of misfortune in the last laps of Heat 2, but they're looking to at least accomplish the goal of getting to the feature in the first place. Doesn't matter where they start, even if it's at the very back. 200 laps can be clocked down quickly if you go all the way green, but we should expect a bit of carnage here and there from a track this short. The real problem is for Sutherland. If he's able to even gain a bit of ground on these 2, the good news for the 19 is that he set a faster lap than your top 2 in the last lap or so, but he's going to have at least 8 more to go until he can fully catch up to Delaney or Berge, Scott. And it may be a wail of desperation for Sutherland. Just going to pray that Delaney and Berge have some sort of issues either with each other or separately somewhere on the racetrack so that he can snag away that second and final transfer spot. But it appears Delaney and Berge aren't really doubting for the top spot at all. They're staying single file.
Well, those drivers know that the top, them 2, if they stay here, can transfer. It's going to be a difference of 1 position. Rather, if Delaney was able to get in front of Berge, or they stay just like this, it's going to be a difference of 1 position. Starting from the back, they'll most likely both start on the back row of our feature, so they both know there's really no point in fighting for the battle for this lead, because it's a measly 1 position that it won't truly matter. It would be worse if one of them made a mistake and took them both out. So they're both really playing it safe right now and managing that gap back to Sutherland.
5 to go here in the LCQ race between 3 drivers, but it appears Delaney and Berge, barring any monumental issues, should advance to the 200 lap feature. That's the only thing separating us and the main race here at Irwindale Speedway. Pretty fun though, Scott, to see the different lines on display by both Berge and Delaney. You see Delaney running a little higher. He sort of arcs it down low while Berge tries to dive in early and then wash up out of the corner. Well, Delaney's going to charge for the lead anyway. Bit loose on the transition down to the apron. Berge's going to stay put, hold on to the position. Final 3 laps here from Irwindale in the LCQ, but Delaney did try to give us some entertainment.
Delaney, he tried it. He had a little bit of speed, but he wanted to make sure, again, he played it clean, didn't mess up Berge or himself, so backed out there and just kind of let it go. But one thing you talked about the different lines, one of the reasons that drivers do that is while one line might be the fastest, if the guy in front of you is running that faster line, if you run right behind him, Kenneth, you're not going to gain any speed, unless you have a car with raw speed or something of that nature. But these drivers start searching. They start searching around the track. It's a habit of most dirt racers because, as we know about dirt changes with every single lap. But here, over the regular race, they change up as we're completing our final lap.
LCQ comes to a close, and it's Tanner Berge to the top spot. He wins the consolation race over Dylan Delaney and the third-place car, Jared Sutherland, who unfortunately is going home, which means we are ready to bring you the starting grid of the 200-lap feature race for Race 1 of the Misfit Touring Summer Series in the first day of April in 2024. And also a good point you brought up there, Scott, about searching for different grooves. It's going to be good news there for Delaney and Berge. While they do have to start at the rear, they're going to be at the mercy of track position. They did put in some extra laps on a pretty rubbered-in racetrack, so as they experiment with different lanes, they can figure out what works and what doesn't in that LCQ, and they can utilize that for the main race. We'll take you trackside and get you the starting grid, where on the pole, it will be Jake Sylvia in the number 12 machine, winner in heat number 1. He'll roll off first to the green flag alongside Tyler Merler in the number 78 machine on row number 1. Dylan Calabro in the number 71 will roll off from the inside of row number 2 from third place. Brett McCoy in his light blue and white number 1 Chevrolet will be on the outside in position number 4. Alex Papini will be in 5th place alongside Justin Brooks in P6. These are basically all of the drivers to advance, mostly through time in qualifying. Deegan Smith, the winner in heat number 2, will roll off from 7th place. Chris Story behind him in 8th. That's row number 4. Then rounding out your top 10, it'll be 2nd place finisher in heat 2, Kyle Adams, and the 3rd place finisher in heat 1, Randy Sargent.
Then back in 11th, we'll have on the outside Sean Urich. We saw him finish 3rd in our heat race, and then to his outside, that 21 of Michael Ostijk. Then back in row 7, Jacob Alexander. It says that 251, but actually out on the track, he's the 06 car. And to his outside, Josh Parrish. Then we have the 45 of Michael Weissman back in 15th. Then on his outside, the 10 of Ed Papano. Back in row 9, we'll have Ty Dennis in the 17 car. And in 18th, at 54 of Corey Vaughn. Row 10 will have AJ Maglio snuck in the back of that second heat race, and on his outside, Tanner Berge, and your final driver is Dylan Delaney in that 88 car. Here we go, Kenneth.
First race of 7 in Misfit Touring Summer Series. It starts from Irwindale. We are racing from California. Tyler Muller and Jake Sylvia chase for turns 1 and 2 for the very first time. Sylvia and Muller going to stay side by side. Muller gets the advantage as we come across to complete lap 1.
Guys all the way on the bottom, in the middle, and Muller all the way on the top with the run. These drivers are already all over the racetrack, side by side, almost 8 rows deep. No one is giving an inch right now, but we've got 200 laps. But Jake Sylvia, your leader, but they're almost 3 wide behind him.
Call that almost 4 wide. Now we're 3 on the inside is Deegan Smith. He rolls out of the throttle entering turn 1. Right in the middle of all that was the 2024 Spring Classic winner, Justin Brooks, who is carving his way through the top 5. A look on board with your leader in Sylvia, holding off a charging Tyler Muller. There's Calabro in the 71, fighting against Justin Brooks, who slides into 3rd as we're door to door for the lead.
Sylvia on the outside. Muller tried to take the slide job in the crossover, but wasn't able to do it. These drivers are really afraid right now that if Jake Sylvia gets any clean air, able to create a gap, well, he might run away with it, Kenneth. These drivers want to make sure that he can't do that. Muller fighting on the bottom, and that 33 car right on his outside.
Brooks is fast. His last lap at a 17.633, about a full 10th faster than Sylvia's last time at a 17.779. And as they cross the line, Brooks a little slower, but hence why he was running the outside lane just to get away from all of the congested traffic on the inside. There's Brooks with a challenge underneath on Sylvia. Rotates his car to the very inside. Move the Cadillac to the top spot momentarily. A bit of contact, and Sylvia stays up front.
These drivers single filed out in the front, but all the way through the field, mid-pack, these drivers are still fighting it out for position. Brett McCoy has dropped 3 positions from the start, back in 6th. But back here, Justin Brooks trying to take it away from Sylvia.
You're seeing very much a lot of different implementations of lines as one car slides way up the racetrack. Right about from 3rd place, that was Calabro, who's going to be under fire for 3rd by Tyler Muller, driver who started in row 1. Bit of a crossover for 3rd place and a crossover for the lead. Sylvia charges back down to the inside. He takes over the top spot, but he washes up the track in turn 2. There's Brooks again for the challenge. Fun racing, only 9 laps in from Irwindale between 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. But all of these lines playing very different roles in how you position your car out of the corner. Sylvia back on the bottom.
I think Brooks had a little bit of contact with the wall there out of turn 2, had a crossover move and slid up, maybe tapped the wall just a little bit, but hasn't scrubbed off any speed. He's going to try the crossover here again, but Sylvia's going to have a run down the back. But I think we might have a new leader for the moment, Justin Brooks. But Sylvia tries it again. They're almost make contact. Justin Brooks checks up.
Sylvia wiggles a bit of the contact between the leaders. Brooks had to check up. It allows the 71 of Calabro to get right back into the mix through the top 3. Brooks is going to pull away, though, by at least half a second. That was straight up dirt track racing for the first spot and even a bit for 3rd in the opening laps. But it's all on Brooks to see if he can pull away, and Sylvia and the rest of the field to see if they can catch up. They might need some yellows, though, if they want to get around the blistering number 33 machine. A look on board with Alex Papini and his 39 car rolling in P6 and kind of in a battle around the position behind him. Deegan Smith, the driver who won heat number 2, is going to be challenging on the bottom with Kyle Adams. And then, of course, Papini, we mentioned, driver behind them, and Michael Osteig, who seems to be fighting with Brett McCoy in the 1 car. These are the final spots inside the top 10. But as this track has rubbered in, the track has changed over the course of qualifying the heats, that consolation with only 3 cars, and then, of course, this large 200-lap feature. You're seeing drivers make that great migration all the way to the top, but there's a risk in running the bottom that gives you a benefit if you can make it work. How do you try and implement which corners you go to the bottom and which corners you don't with this car?
Well, right now, especially through the first half of this race, these guys are just trying to go where their opponents aren't. If you're side by side for a guy, well, if you're on the outside, you're going to be forced to the top. If you're on the inside, you're going to be forced to the bottom. But as we go throughout this race, we'll see guys will continue to single file out. We'll have more one-on-one battles. And as this race goes on, we'll have tires that we might pit for during this race. These lap tires will not make it these full 200 laps. So that's another thing we're thinking about, Kenneth, of when these guys are going to pit. But you're going to be, as this run goes on, your car is going to get tighter. And as we get tighter, like we saw in our heat races, that most guys, when they got tighter, they migrated to the top. So right now, some guys are already there. Some guys are already on the bottom, but drivers are going to be all over this track throughout this race, Kenneth, trying to gain something on the car ahead of them.
Sort of a game of limbo. How low can you go on the racetrack? Drivers are getting to that apron, and one thing we really also didn't mention is the transition from the 6 degrees at the bottom of what technically is the racing surface versus at the start of the apron, which is much flatter than the 6 degrees. A look on board with Deegan Smith and a pretty big war on 5th on back that starts with Papini's number 39 machine. He's under heavy fire from Story, from Osteig, from Adams, and Macon Smith, the 5th car in that group, as they're side by side about 2 rows deep. But that transition, and it really can take your car out of loop, and it can really get it sideways or just send your car up the racetrack depending on how you would attack it based on the angle. So it's going to be pretty fun to see, to watch if any of those drivers down low make that charge to the apron, how the transition affects the car. Banging doors for 7th place. Look at Osteig, challenge to the bottom, and we're 3 wide.
While Story and Papini are having a bit of a disagreement, Story tried to cross over that 39 of Papini. Kyle Adams had to check up just a tiny bit to let Story through and not crash all of them. And that allowed the 21 of Osteig to get a run. They're tight pack battling right here, and now Deegan Smith enters the race.
Smith, the Rockton, Illinois native, the 17-year-old working for Fusion Setup Shop, is in the midst of this fight. A bit of contact for 8th. That was Weissman getting right into Kyle Adams. Another 3-wide fight. Out of nowhere is Josh Parrish. He makes a bit of slight contact with the one of Brett McCoy, goes for a wiggle. Parrish, who started pretty deep in the first heat of the night, was able to move up to 5th after starting in 10th. And as of right now, over 23 laps, that 55 car has moved up into 11th, and again we're 3 wide. You do not really want to be, Scott, in the heart of this pack, because it is getting contentious.
Right here around our top position, these guys are 2 and 3 wide still. They have not sorted it out back here, but big news, Brett McCoy continuing to drop positions. He's now down 8 from the start and all the way in the back. Randy Sargent down 10 positions. So 2 of your guys just not able to hold up with the rest of this pack right now. But like you said, it is tight racing right here in the mid pack. And personally, I would not want to be here because we are asking for guys to wreck right here. But MRL over this offseason, this quick offseason really before the summer series, they really cracked down on the rules. You know, last season in the Touring Series, we did see a ton of great racing, but we also saw a lot of guys that weren't quite following the rules to the T. And so MRL this season had to really cut down on those and make sure that we saw some really respectful and clean racing. Got story around.
Sideways and into the outside wall, creates our first spin of the night and our first caution. As a result, the 67 car was going into the first corner and got hooked up the racetrack in a fight with Tegan Smith. Here's the replay.
Well, just as I was saying about clean racing, this is just a racing incident, looked like, but Story right here in the middle, they're going to almost 4 wide, just cuts up a little bit, gets into that 15 of Deegan Smith, and they run down here into 2, and that 21 of Ostadike just doesn't really give Story any room. Story does not know he's that close, and they make contact. That one there, right there is more of a racing incident like we were talking about, so won't really give any of those rules. We might get an EOL, but Story right there just comes down, and Ostadike was running his line.
Our first incident of the race here at Irwindale Speedway, and one thing that goes to the point you made, Scott, about the new rules and all of the implementations of putting all of those rules into paper after just being verbal mostly. Kyle Adams talked to us about it, of all the rules that they implemented a couple of hours before we got ready to get the broadcast started here on Podium Esports. We had a lot of the rules implemented, including claimed and unclaimed cautions, and whether that could help with post-race penalties and penalties as a whole as we get through the race. Chris Story, though, involved in the first bit of contact. Let's talk to the community director of Misfit Racing League. We join Kyle Adams, and Kyle, you had a first-hand perspective of exactly what happened in front of you. Talk to us about what you saw first and foremost.
Yeah, you know, back here kind of mid-pack, we are just nose to tail, throwing sliders door to door. It's good racing back here, and the last thing you want to see going into turn 1 is a driver door. And yeah, seeing that number 61, there's some kind of contact there. That's just racing. We're getting close, and so, but yeah, no, a little scary, A little scary, but you end up getting through with a pretty clean Dodge Charger that is on the late model stock. We're ready to get to green, but talk to us about some of the rule changes and the way you guys at MRL have been able to crack down on the rules, put it to written form like Scott was talking about, and be able to make the racing a little cleaner and make the officiating a little more organized as well for the summer series. Yeah, no, that's exactly it. In a nutshell, is we just wanted to make sure everything was transparent. There was a good opportunity for everybody to be on the same page, and that all the rules are going to increase the professionalism and the quality of the racing and the streams.
All right, Kyle, best of luck as we get the green flag from Irwindale.
Thank you. Here we go.
Right to the green flag. The 24 car is going to start from inside the top 10, and already he's stuck in the middle 3 wide momentarily with the 74 car underneath. And it was
Sylvia through the grass.
There's Sylvia up high. Brooks is going to make the crossover.
Man, he cut it so located. Both of his left sides were in the grass. Couldn't quite make the move on Brooks. Brooks just had a great line there, but Sylvia dove down lower than I've ever seen anyone go.
It is getting fun here at Irwindale, but Sylvia might get eaten up by the rest of the pack. There's Calabro to the bottom. Tyler Muller in the number 78. Right behind him, Papini and Smith going door to door for inside top 5 position. Papini dives underneath, puts 2 left side tires on that white and yellow line at the bottom of the racetrack. Doesn't get the best of Sylvia, gets the best of the 78 car, and we are in the middle of a 4 to 5 car pack that starts from the second place car.
Alex Papini doing really well right now, runs that bottom. Tyler Muller on us. Tyler Muller in the wall, and Papini in the wall. Deegan Smith gets into the back of them. They're all into the wall, but we stay, no, caution.
And it's Brent McCoy who goes face first into the inside wall off the exit of 4, looking to get the car righted. He's gonna have to pull a 3-point turn as he rejoins the field, but pretty significant damage to that bright blue and white #1 machine. As a look from behind the main pack, it started with the 39 of Papini, who rolls the inside, and talk about using the sliders. Him and Muller make the contact off the corner. They check up in front. And as the one car just reacts to the situation, it's Josh Parrish who gives him the slight bump, and then Kyle Adams to send him to the wall.
Well, no fast repairs in this race tonight, so whatever damage the one has there, Brent McCoy, he's going to have to live with. Probably has some wheel damage there on the right side. Nothing too terrible for him, but it's going to be not as well. Kyle wasn't quite as lucky this time as he's right behind Brent McCoy. McCoy cuts across his nose. Definitely going to lose a lot of positions there for Adams.
2 cars on pit road. That is for damage repair. And it's going to be, of course, McCoy involved in that incident in his Chevrolet Lumina with the decals on the late model stock. And Corey Vaughn, who also picked up some front end damage through all of this. That Flying Aces Camaro is quick in and out of pit road. He will rejoin the field from the back of the field, and he should pick up 19th from the one of McCoy. So make that our first real big incident, other than Chris Story getting involved in our first caution, our first 2 yellows out at around lap 39 of 200. Quick work, though, here at Irwindale Speedway as some more drivers take to pit road, Scott, to repair their race cars. That is going to hurt, but the good news is that we're only 39 laps in. So if you do get involved in a crash, and let's say it's not enough to warrant race over for you, good news is you've got a lot of time to recuperate on track position, especially with a lot of guys involved. When you look at Story and guys like Deegan Smith, these are drivers that have put in pretty fast laps and were running well inside the top 10. You can imagine that a mistake this early probably won't kill their race. They'll have a lot of time in the bag left to regain all of that track position.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Papini gets the EOL for causing the caution. The whole reason that McCoy got spun around by Adams on his bumper was because Papini slid up in front of Muller, stacked them up into the wall, and caused a checkup in the field. But now we're ready to go here again.
2 by 2 at the exit of 4. Pace car is down. The Cadillac to react first. Justin Brooks in the 33 will lead us back to action here at Irwindale. Calabro and Sylvia will take on the fight for second place almost instantaneously out of turn 2. Back to 4th place, Tyler Muller, who has to hold off a pretty stout group of race cars, while there is Kyle Adams on the inside of Ostdyke, who got a little loose entering the restart. Is going to have to face everybody else for position in the latter half of this top 10. The top 4 have broken away as a result. Contact in the back. There's Deegan Smith in the wall. We're going to stay green. And now the caution is out.
There we go, back to caution. These drivers, what we know, once the caution flag comes out, cautions breed cautions, Kenneth. So we're back under yellow yet here again, as we'll check out what happened here in the back. These cars are all stacking up 3 wide, 2 wide. Story down on the bottom here, goes for the 3 wide, and back there, Tanner Berge just charges in a little hard and gets into the back of that 88 of Delaney. And Papini just keeps on riding all the way up on his hood. Wow. He did not want to stop.
That is a ramp in race car form. Here's a look at Delaney going around, and there's Papini, who hopped on the brakes but could not get around, and that is a full-on view of the drive on the other side of that car.
Well, I would say that Papini can't really see. I would say that's not the way he's going to be able to race.
You know, it kind of works if you're looking at the racetrack, not looking at the underside of a race car, but
now,
Papini on the poor end of that, unfortunately.
You know, very poor end, not well for Papini. But, you know, what I really wonder right now is, could you race around the track like that? If you had someone on your roof, how would the car drive?
I'd imagine it doesn't drive good. I mean, is it sort of like Denny Hamlin when he drove with his hood up one time?
Yes. But, like, think about, like, 18,000 hoods.
and at least 3,200 pounds, at least.
Well,
that was fun. Papini and Delaney both get damaged, and they take the cars onto pit road. Unfortunately for Delaney, he's going to be our first car 1 lap down or more. The only other car that has faced the lap down territory is AJ Maglio, who unfortunately disconnected around 36 laps ago. It was pretty early in the race where the 03 disconnected from the session. So that's basically our first DNF of the night. Well, other than that, Delaney is going to have to pick up the lap back, and hopefully he'll search for another caution flag to at least get back on lead lap territory. Delaney, one of the 2 drivers that was forced into the consolation race. Him and Tanner Berge were going door to door and lap after lap, 1-2, just to basically convert into making it to the feature race in first place. Delaney, though, suffering some of the bad luck, and Delaney will be joined by Deegan Smith as cars that are put a lap down or more. That does take out, Scott, some pretty hefty drivers, most notably Brett McCoy and Deegan Smith, drivers who are on pit road, might be a lap down or more, and faced with pretty hard damage early on in the race.
Not the way that Deegan Smith wanted to start this summer series. Again, we've only got 7 races, one at the beginning of every month, so you've got to make each race count if you want to win this summer series season championship. But that 33 car, well, Sylvia might have met his match.
And we've got a new challenger in the form of Dylan Calabro, who at South Boston in our Spring Classic not that long ago finished 3rd. Brooks is going to take the field out of turn 4 and will hop on the gas pedal first. From beautiful Irwindale, California, Brooks is up and away to bring us back to green flag action at lap 48 of 200. Inside is Calabro, steals away second from Sylvia, and there's Muller and Osteich to go door to door for 4th place.
Calabro, definitely an underrated driver here in this MRL field. Did very well in the touring series, and he's definitely a bit underrated as he has some speed under that hood of his late model stock. Running second right now. The first 4 have single filed out, the top 3 going to the bottom, and some of the rest on the top.
Tyler Muller almost in 4-wide action. Oh. They all about wadded it up at the exit of 4. Door banging is the 21 and the 55. That's 6th place on the docket. Osteich and Parrish getting physical through the top 10.
Thought we were about to have our 5th caution there. Man, they were all about to converge off of turn 4, but they were able to keep it clean. Now Kyle Adams going for that 4th position on Muller. He's got some speed under that hood today as we got the 55 trying to get around Osteich.
The 21 and the 55 have a Let's Get Physical by Dua Lipa blasting in their speakers because they are door banging almost every lap. Parrish gets into Osteich again, and they wiggle, but they save. Both of those race cars, unbelievable.
Adams got loose off the corner. Osteich had to check himself down, but then Parrish was right there. That's what created that contact. They were able to keep the cars straight, and we're still on rolling. But now, Osteich trying to move up into 5th.
And there was a look on board momentarily with the 10 of Ed Papineau, who's moved up 6 spots since the drop of the green. That bright yellow and orange car has moved up to 10th place and is eyeing in on Josh Parrish and Sean Urich, a fight for 8th. So far at the moment, battle for 2nd. There's Calabro to the inside of Sylvia. This position still up for auction. Sylvia wants to win this, but every single lap, Scott, that they go door to door and fight for this spot is only going to give Justin Brooks a further advantage. He's already pulled ahead by almost half a second over the drivers, now make it eclipsing half a second to about 6/10 now. So every lap that Sylvia and Calabro go door to door and at least try to fight for position, Brooks is just going to pull away.
Well, as we look on here with Papineau, fully know that Brooks is looking in that mirror and managing that gap. He knows he has a great lead on those guys behind him, and he's going to continue to manage that. He's going to save his tires, and he's not going to go out and stretch out, maybe a 1, 2, even 3-second lead. He's going to manage it and save his tires, because if you're in first, it doesn't matter if you're ahead by 1,000th of a second or 10 seconds.
Brooks, the spotter for late model stock cars, street stocks, and super trucks. The driver out of McCole, South Carolina, utilizing his driving skills on the sim to maximum perfection, and I'd imagine the setup is helping him as well. Pull away again, this time by about 0.7 of a second. He remains ahead of Jake Sylvia, who was clear of Dylan Calabro for second place, and then we are about door-to-door between Kyle Adams and Michael Ostijk. But the real battle sits just inside of the top 10. Josh Parrish, Sean Urich, Michael Weissman with Ed Capino in the background.
Well, Josh Parrish didn't qualify, had to qualify through the heat race, but man, he is fast, sitting here in 8th right now, battling with Sean Urich on his outside. But another driver that's also fast, Michael Weissman. He's up 8 positions from the start of this race, currently sitting 7th, right in front of Parrish and Urich.
Started just inside the top 15, looking on the inside of Ostijk's number 21 car, but to no avail at the exit of turn 2. And as we see this race develop, and another look from Capino just behind the 97 of Sean Urich, it appears fighting on the inside is much harder than it was earlier in this race. We saw it heat number 1 and even through heat number 2 in the LCQ, the inside lane still pretty dominant to be able to make passes complete. But now as this race has progressed and as more rubber gets put into this track, 61 laps in, Scott, you're seeing the inside line being utilized out of necessity, not out of pace.
Well, absolutely. You're just able to cut the course so much, as we'll see Sean Urich dive down below Josh Parrish there trying to take position. The reasons drivers are doing that is for that crossover like we talked about. The 55 takes it back from Urich, didn't get a great exit from that cut down, but like you said, it's not because of pace, it's just out of necessity. They are able to cut the course just so far and create so much speed. That's really the only way you can make it around a driver here, unless you're side by side, because if you get door to door, Kenneth, man, you will be battling door to door for so long.
And we really haven't seen a pass made on the very outside lane. Drivers don't power on the outside as easily as maybe some other cars can here at Irwindale, so it makes the task of getting around traffic just extremely difficult. And again, it's out of necessity, because the only way you want to make passes, unless the driver in front of you makes a mistake, is to run that bottom lane. Look on board with Tyler Muller, who has fallen out to 4th and might be under pressure from Kyle Adams, Ostijk, and Michael Weissman. This 4-car breakaway that goes from about 4th to 7th place. Muller, who finished 2nd behind Justin Brooks in our Spring Classic with these same cars at South Boston, starting to fall off a bit as the run progresses, Scott.
Hasn't had the exact speed that he wants, still running in a great position by all means, but for Muller knows that him as a driver, he absolutely has a chance to win these races. He's always running consistently in the top 10, a lot of times top 5. So right now it looks like that car just doesn't have the pace he wants. But right now he's loving that Ostijk is coming up on the outside of Adams, because that is slowing them both down and allowing Muller to hold position.
And the tactic played smart by Ostijk to wait for Adams to look underneath Muller, and then the 21 could just fill the space up top and take the position away in due time. Adams is now going to have to scrap for what's going to be the final spot inside the top 5, and they have let the top 3 pull away with a clear advantage. Calabro is about 1.5 seconds in front of Muller, this car leading this 4-car train. Then Sylvia is another 2nd up the road, and then it's about 9/10 of a second before you get to your race leader in Justin Brooks. This is our closest battle on the racetrack. Weissman and Parrish joining this fight, so the 5 cars about wrapped in by 0.5 seconds, got on under a blanket.
I was about to say, that's exactly what I was going to say. These guys are lined up under a blanket here. They're almost 3 wide. Ostijk finally gets around Muller. Muller just running that top line. He's not trying to go on the bottom. He is running that one line because he knows that's exactly what he has. But Ostijk finally able to get around. Now Kyle Adams and Michael Weissman side by side, but Josh Parrish looking to capitalize.
Oh, and he gets into the 24,
the wall.
Puts him into the wall. Adams is able to keep it straight. We are going to stay green here at Irwindale, but that was a pretty big shunt entering turn 1 for Kyle Adams, as the 55 of Josh Parrish got right into him, drops to 11th place as a result. A look at the replay, and this is all in the effort, Scott, to fill the hole on the outside lane. As soon as Adams makes the effort down low, there's a bunch of open space up top. Parrish saw all the other drivers utilizing that to carry momentum, and unfortunately they make a bit of the contact.
Well, Parrish fills that gap on the outside, and not sure. Looks like Kyle Adams, his note, as we got caution out now, great news for Josh Parrish. But like I was saying, Parrish just put his nose right there on the outside, and it probably wasn't enough room for that iRacing spotter to make Adams known that someone was to his outside, so he thought he was clear, as we'll get the reason for the caution. Kyle Adams pulling into pit road now, try to get some damage repair, but not sure what this caution is for, Kenneth.
The caution is going to be for Chris Story and Alex Papini. Made a bit of contact on the rise out of turn 2 in the fight for 13th place. We'll see if we can get the replay for you as Adams hit pit road. So this is a pretty fun battle between the 39 and the 67. Each of them performing slide jobs, getting around each other. The usual here at Irwindale, like we've seen. But as soon as Story goes up the racetrack, he's loose. Checking up is Papini. Does a nice job of getting out of it until he's got nowhere to go.
Well, he decided to check up there, and I imagine he jumped back on the throttle real quick because he thought he might have had a hole, but Story was right there spinning. Yeah, had to check up big time, and Story was getting hugely loose. Man, that is some hard contact there. They're both probably going to have to come into the pits right now, but everyone's coming into the pits right now, Kenneth.
Sylvia Ostijk and a whole host of others down pit road. 77 laps in. This caution was the calling card for everyone to come in. Sylvia going to take the first box, and a lot of this might just be for fuel only, but they are going to lift up the jacks, so some right side tires and should be some left sides as well. 4 of those tires on the cars. Ostijk with a pretty quick stop at about 10.5 seconds. Everybody else is underway while the top 3 stay out. Is this a good call, Scott?
I think everyone's pitting right now, so I think absolutely. If you stay out there, man, you are going to get eaten alive. 77 laps on your tires when everyone else behind you has fresh ones. I would have gone to the pits here for sure. I'm not sure what you're going to be able to do out there on old tires, but we saw right there, I believe it was Sean Urich and Ed Papineau might have taken only right sides. So that might be a good move that we can look at here, but Ed Papineau and them going to be ahead of some of our field.
Just looking to crunch down as much time on pit road as possible. You don't want to spend too long down there or else you're just going to lose a lot of track position. So a lot of 2-tire calls. And it's going to be fun to see whether those right side or left side tires implemented by the rest of the field, it's really going to work, because maybe it could help you arc the car a little bit better using the grip on the left side tires or right side tires, depending on the scenario. If you want to run all the way to the inside and make passes on other drivers, we are going to double up the field and get ready for a lap 80 restart. And all 3 of the drivers to stay out did so in different scenarios, but you're going to make it 2 now. It was Delaney who stayed out just to gain track position, but he ended up coming down. But Brooks and Calabro stay out on their own volition. The 33 and the 71 out of 4 to get us the restart at lap 80 of 200 for the first race of the Misfit Touring Summer Series. And there's Brooks underway early back to turn 1.
Really going to see how this works out here, because I'm taking a complete guesstimate here on how these tires will react to the fresh ones behind. Right now, Brooks and Calabro still holding first and second, so right now it's really working out for them. But the question is, later down the line, will it continue to work out? But right now, they're looking good, Kenneth.
A door-to-door fight for 3rd place momentarily fizzles out. Ostijk getting the best of Jake Sylvia, who was down to a race low 4th place after coming out behind that 21 off of pit road. Sean Urich moves through the field, and the first time we see him inside the top 5 after starting back in 11th. A great run to start for the New Berlin, Wisconsin native that's only 16 years old and drives some sportsman cars while he's not on the sim. So Urich is going to keep a close eye on this fight for 3rd right in front of him.
Well, another driver I would love to talk about, Michael Ostijk. Man, running in 3rd, started back in 12th, running a great race right now, running pretty cleanly. Has had some incidents with other guys, just some racing contact, but right now running a great race right ahead of Jake Sylvia.
And trying to recover after the finish in the Spring Classic at South Boston, where he actually did not make that race, but he wasn't able to join the field there. But he runs in 3rd for the moment. Sylvia right behind, and it remains a single file through your top 4. It doesn't appear, though, that the tire calls, Scott, by either Ostijk or Sylvia worked out to perfection. They are maintaining ground. Caution is going to come out again, and this time it's for Brett McCoy, who goes around once more at the exit at 2. But for the fresh tire cars, they don't seem to be gaining all that much ground on your top 2.
We'll take a look back at what happened here. Him and Chris Story, they have had a bit of a history, been around each other a bit tonight. Brett McCoy tries the slide job, squeezes Story into the wall, was not clear. Contact after, and man, Brett McCoy seems a little mad there, but he was the one down on the inside trying the slide jobs. We'll get another angle here. Story up on the outside, McCoy trying to slide up, not clear.
McCoy involved in another crash. So is the 67 of Story. He hooks McCoy to the outside wall, both of them getting a bit of the damage, and we'd imagine that the admins will take a closer look at that. They know retaliation and on-track bumping out of anger is looked at pretty closely by the admins to see if they can assess any post-race penalties, but for now, it's not going to be the case other than an end-of-line penalty given to McCoy's machine. There are some drivers to hit pit road, most notably Vaughn in his number 54 machine. There are some others to also take pit road, including, it appears, Ty Dennis came down pit road about 10 laps ago, but then there are others who are just coming in. Ed Papineau and then Corey Vaughn, of course. Randy Sargent in the 11, joining about a 5 or so car group to enter pit road.
39 of Papini came down too. He's had a couple incidents, but other guys I'm seeing sitting on pit road, Deegan Smith and Kyle Adams still down there. Not sure if Deegan Smith is still in this one. He's been in and out, but 44 laps down right now from some contact earlier, so he might be out of this one. But Kyle Adams is still in this race, but he is 12 laps down from that contact earlier we saw with him and Parrish.
Looks like for Adams, it remains 12 laps down, but he's going to rejoin the track. For Deegan Smith, I'm not sure if we are going to see him again. He is 44 laps down and counting back to 20th, so it is going to be really tough for Smith to even get back into this race. The lead lap contention, it's really more so going to be about just going out on track and completing the rest of the race. He is going to have still a while left to go. There's another half of this race left to run here at Irwindale Speedway as everyone remains in the chase for the 33 of Justin Brooks. Just a reminder that coverage of the Misfit Touring Summer Series here on Podium Esports is brought to you by Molly's Custom Silver, providing championship belt buckles for the champions in the Summer Series and the All-Star Shootout Series. Molly's Custom Silver, a big shout out to them and all of their work that they do for this Misfit Racing League. As we are ready for the restart, Brooks and Calabro will have the top 2 spots. Reminder, they are on 90-lap old tires. Everyone else coming down pit road as early as 13 laps ago. An onboard look with Ostike. The chase to the green flag. Brooks out early. Calabro there to match him into turn 1.
Right now, really making it work out there is Brooks and Calabro. Side by side is Ostike and Sylvia fighting it out for that 3rd position. Something I'm interested to see, Kenneth, when will they pit? These tires, while they're working now, will not make it 200 laps.
And while we run under green flag laps, Sylvia and Ostike, how much of their fresh tires are they going to use? Because if we get more yellows, it's only going to continue that stop and go rhythm that does not help fresh tire cars. Sylvia's going to want green flag laps. He keeps in touch with Calabro and Brooks through 1st and 2nd. We go side by side for 4th. A race high top 5 for Josh Parrish.
Well, Ostike not having the run on this heat. He was just in 3rd before the restart, now falling back to 5th. But Josh Parrish up 10 positions from the start of this race. We've seen that he had speed, had a little moment with him and Adams. As we look back now on that 78 of Muller, maybe he's gained a little speed, now back battling for 6th.
Parrish corrals the 4th spot while Muller looks to rebound after falling outside of the top 5 as of late. Muller from the fight with Urich, that's going to be for 6th place, but they go nose to tail. Meanwhile, Dylan Delaney, look at this recovery, Scott, after being a lap down earlier in this race and making it all the way through the LCQ is going to be more wide, and into the wall is Randy Sargent from the inside. That will trigger the caution 4 laps prior to halfway.
Well, that was a great angle to see that all going down, but man, we could see it all the way from the exit of 4 that was not going to end the way these drivers wanted to. As in a second, we're going to get a replay of what happened back there. But like you said, Delaney has some great speed back there. Looking at him on the bottom in the middle there, the 11 car, the one is going to go around him, and that 06 of Jacob Alexander get into it.
A lot of drivers there, Scott, fighting for real estate. The 35 up high, maintaining his position, then Delaney on the inside. Jacob Alexander is going to have a great run out of 4. Wants to shoot for that gap in the middle between Delaney and then Sargent. Look at the avoidance there by Kyle Adams.
He gets a little bit of it. Gets a little bit of it on that left rear quarter panel, but man, Adams doesn't want any more damage. He's back there 12 laps down, narrowly avoids that one, just trying to take out some laps. But man, I've got to say it again, really upset for Adams, because this is probably one of the fastest cars he's had for sure throughout a lot of the racing that he's done. A great driver, but just had a really great car today, so really unfortunate to have to go to pit road and take care of that damage. But we're under caution yet again, rounding out halfway.
So we are at lap 98 of 200, and another pack of cars have hit pit road. Chris Story is going to be one of them. Of course, Randy Sargent, who was involved in the incident and got sent towards the inside wall. So is Jacob Alexander in the 251, who actually is going to stay out this time by, but will be given an end-of-line penalty on behalf of the incident. Brett McCoy is going to re-enter pit road. So is Alex Papini in the number 39, just getting some extra damage repair before they can get back out onto the track. It's really the strategy you have to implement if you've got any damage that is hurting you with your race car, Scott, is the fact that you just got to spend as much time on pit road before you see that pace car come right back around, because the last thing you want to do is be put a lap down or more.
Definitely, you have to stay on that lead lap here. We've had a couple of cautions, but yet again, these cautions, they're not guaranteed, and you're not guaranteed to get that lap back. Might have someone ahead of you. Anything could happen. The main key is that you get onto pit road, you've got to get off as quick as possible. And as we know, they do not have any fast repairs here yet on this race. Not sure if throughout the series, but most likely not. Those fast repairs are only granted on special occasions, so that time takes forever, Kenneth.
And this caution isn't really good news for either Jake Sylvia nor Michael Ostdijk, using the fresh tire advantage no more, as they've crossed the line for 24 laps on their stint of new tires. So really, it is equalized with the guys up front, who have now gone 101 laps on their set of rubber. It's going to be Brooks and Calabro back to the green flag, halfway home here at Irwindale Speedway for the first race of the Misfit Touring Summer Series. All on Brooks to get us back underway, and we're green flag racing once again.
Brooks gets another great jump there. Calabro follows right behind, but Jake Sylvia is looking to get back in the fight for the lead of this race. Been running in 4th and 3rd for this last half, as we've got caution out back already.
And a pretty big crash. Chris Story up and over with Ed Papineau alongside him. It appears Kyle Adams was near that. Jacob Alexander got a piece of the impact, and it's our biggest crash of the night, striking a lap 103. Here's the pack entering turn 1 and the mess that follows.
Man, they're 3 wide here, back in the pack. Tanner Berge on the outside with Michael Weissman there, and then back behind Chris Story, Dylan Delaney, Ed Papineau. They all stack up in the back. Just these drivers get into it and they make the tiniest bits of moves, and you're able, as we'll get another angle on it.
As everyone merges lanes off of turn 2, they come up off the corner. All the space really evaporates, and Papineau with nowhere to go. He gets a hit there from Story and from Delaney up the racetrack, and Story gets the ugliest hit of them all. Hit that little cut in the wall that helps drivers either out of pit road or from emergency personnel in real life. It's a little cut in that outside wall and an opening, sort of similar to how Gateway has it. And hard into the wall goes Story, then gets an extra tap by Sargent. Up and over he goes.
Man, luckily we are in the virtual right now, because while racing safety has come a long way in the real life, if we were in real life, that one would have hurt big time. But I know that little inlet right there, that is probably going to take Chris Story out of this, just with the way his race car is going to be after that. Absolutely carnaged, and he's going to be pretty much totaled there.
Story is going to be now the third car who started this feature race inside the top 10 to be one or more laps down. It's going to be Story, Adams, and now Deegan Smith. Delaney, Sargent, Vaughn, Papineau, all of them on pit road this time.
Well, you made the pun earlier, but I'm going to make it again. This is definitely not the Story that 67 wanted.
This is a nightmare.
I had to make it again. Yeah, this is a nightmare. Not even a dream. It's just the worst thing that could have happened.
I think I've seen this story before, and I didn't like the ending. And for the 67, he ends up and over his race, surely over halfway here at Irwindale, which is going to leave Justin Brooks out in front. And while we've seen more of these cautions come up, it's helping Brooks stay up front because all of the track position freezes every time we get a yellow flag. But is that going to affect you mentally? And for these guys second on back, is that going to make them a little more frustrated as they want to run this race under green 1? But secondly, they want to catch up to Brooks and make it a fight.
It definitely makes you frustrated, especially frustrating for Sylvia and Parrish, as they had fresh tires earlier. And you were mentioning it a minute ago, as now they've pretty much evened out on their tires, and they do that after a while. Once those stickers, they lose about 10 or 15 laps. It really doesn't matter if you're on 100 or 20. They're really all about the same.
Doubled up and ready to go. Brooks and Calabro to the green flag. Sylvia fighting for third. Eyes in on second place, but he's got Josh Parrish fighting right back on the outside to make it door-to-door for third between the two Camrys. Entering 3 and 4, Brooks is going to pull away again and is well clear of everyone else, but he tagged the wall.
Sylvia drifting it through these corners. He's now back to fourth. Josh Parrish up 11 positions now into third and scrapes the wall there just a tiny bit. But Sylvia looking to climb, but he's falling through the field right now as he's got Ostadike on his outside.
The Pikeville, North Carolina native is doing it all tonight in the red, white, and blue colors on his Camry. Moves up to a race-high third. Sylvia trapped on the bottom. Ostadike to fight him on the outside lane, while Tyler Muller in the 78 watches from a distance. He's one of those guys that wants to get back into the top 5 after falling out. Muller sort of lagged back as the run progressed, making 3 wide for a moment for about third place.
Ostadike used his bumper just a little bit there with Parrish. I was able to get on the inside of him, but Parrish has that fast line on the outside, and Ostadike is not quite able to move up and clear him.
So Parrish is going to stay put, Ostadike behind, Sylvia to file through on the outside, but keeps an eye on the rearview mirror where the 78 of Muller resides, and they have to also watch for Sean Urich. Anytime you get into a battle, there's always going to be a driver right behind you, and each of them have had their own journeys here. Muller has spent the majority of this race up front after starting second. Then there's guys like Sean Urich, who started 11th up to 7th. Guys like Ostadike, who started 12th. Parrish, who started 14th. And then behind these guys is Tanner Berge in the 35. You remember him winning the consolation race? Well, he's up inside the top 10 for the first time all race long.
Well, we've seen him back before. We've seen him in the Touring Series. We know that Tanner Berge comes with a name of speed, and he has it out here today, back in the 9th position, battling for that position currently. But man, he is doing really well right now, looking off the rear of Josh Parrish right now, still running third. Ostadike trying to take it away, but these guys running consistent laps here now, Kenneth, getting that green run that they wanted.
A look from behind is crowded. A look up front is almost fully vacant. Calabro and Brooks have pulled away again, this time to the tune of a full second. The argument of whether fresh tires really matter here in this Irwindale race, well, it looks like the answer is not that much. A look on board with Brett McCoy, who has been through hell and back tonight. He's through 11th, though, with all of the attrition and the carnage tonight. But throughout the first half of the race, we'll keep an eye on the 1 as he patrols inside on Tanner Berge in the fight for 10th place. So here's the pack, third on back. It's Parrish, Osteich, Sylvia, and make that Muller sort of lagging from everyone else, and then Sean Urich. About 5 cars in this group. They're starting to fall away from the 71 and the 33 ahead. What happens now? You just really have to play your cards with what you've been dealt. And as far as Sylvia goes, going down pit road alongside Osteich really didn't make a difference for them.
No, it did not. And talking about that, we talk about these tires, and as we're seeing right now, you know, it really depends on the track. And here with Irwindale, we've learned these tires really don't matter that much. Earlier, I was talking about how I would have been one of those guys in the pits, and I would have been wrong. It looks like Justin Brooks and Dylan Calabrio had the right move to stay out. But something I'm really curious as to, Kenneth, we ran back here recently at Martinsville for the final race of our Triple Crown Showdown. And it was a 200-lap race, and the drivers all had to pit at least once because Jake Sylvia, he ran out there for 160 laps and had a tire failure around that mark. Wasn't able to make it to the full 200 on one set. So that's what I'm really wondering. Will Dylan Calabrio and Brooks be able to make it all the way on one set, or will they risk a failure?
And the question as well, too, Scott, goes as we watch Osteich and Parrish go at it for 3rd place. Are they waiting for a caution? And if this race goes green all the way to the end, we've got about, say, 78 laps to go. Going to be 77 once we cross the start-finish line this time by. If we go green from here to the race end, Brooks and Calabrio, are they forced to pit under green, which is going to be a huge Achilles heel because they're going to fall a lap or 2 down from your leaders, and if they don't get yellows to get them back on the lead lap, well, they're done. Their race is over despite being at the front for most of the contest, so you really have to ponder that if you're the 33 and the 71, that question of should I have pitted or am I confident enough in my speed and my setup where I can take care of my tires to make it to lap 200. Well, I can tell you that everybody third on back, they're not really worried about tires because they're fighting like it's the last lap here for 3rd. And sideways in the back of this group is Michael Weissman and Jacob Alexander.
Well, everyone that's pitted, they can all make it. That no matter what, they can abuse their tires and they can make it to the end really unless they have a huge issue. So all these drivers, whoa, the 21 is sideways. He spins, he's around.
Osteich into the inside wall. And it looks like he alt-tab forward before he can fully hit the wall on the inside. We are going to stay green. That takes out a pivotal player, Scott, in all of this.
Man, Osteich, I was talking about earlier, having a great run all race long, fighting against the 55 of Josh Parrish right there. Just gets loose out of turn 2, cutting that bottom, and was not able to save it. And even worse, Kenneth, no caution, so he is probably going to go multiple laps down here if he takes to pit road, but if not, he is all the way in the back. But we're hearing that he is disconnected from the server now.
Yeah, he disconnected right as he was going sideways, did not have enough of what was going on, just decided to get out of the session before it could really get nasty for him on the back straightaway, so it declines the opportunity for Osteich to get back into the top 3. However, it invites Tyler Muller and Sean Urich into the conversation. These two are sort of riding back behind Sylvia, Parrish, and Osteich at the moment. Sylvia is going to tag the outside wall, so even more of an inclination for the 78 of Muller to get right into the pack and say, hey, what's good? How we doing? Let's fight for position, shall we? Let's have a bit of fun inside 70 laps to go, because at this juncture, as long as we don't get a caution and as long as there are no concerns for Brooks and Calabrio if they're able to make it on tires, this will be the race. We're going to see these drivers stay single file for the rest of the outing, or a bit of side-by-side action if we don't get a crash or some sort of strategy mishap. So at this point, it may, Scott, just be all about fighting for track position, at least from what you've got. If you're in the top 5, go for it.
I think so, and right now we're seeing what I'm looking at is we're seeing 2 majorly different lines. Justin Brooks, up our leader, running 2/10 faster than all those cars third on back, because he is running all the way down to that yellow line, and so is Calabrio. Calabrio running the middle sometimes, but most likely on the bottom. But Josh Parrish, sitting back in 3rd, well, he is running all the way on that top line. I saw him almost a few inches away from the wall. So big difference of lines here and a big difference of speed.
And a change in setup for all 3 of them. So the way they run this track, really fun to watch. Parrish, though, continues to fall behind. He's about 3 seconds off of Calabro in second place. But the first time that we see these leaders carve through lap traffic. Scott, we haven't really had a long green flag run worthy enough of giving us some of the lead lap cars getting through some of the lap machines. It's not going to be hard now for Brooks and Calabro, but if they do get to more congested parts of the racetrack, they may have some trouble getting through, and it could slow them down to help Parrish, Sylvia, and the rest of the pack play catch-up. Meanwhile, a look on board with Sylvia, who has wrestled this Toyota Camry throughout the entirety of this race with 64 to go, chasing Parrish for third.
Just not having the race Jake Sylvia really wanted. Started on that pole position because he was able to get the heat race and win that, able to start up front, but just hasn't quite had the raw speed that Brooks and Calabro are able to have, as we'll see him fighting right behind, like you said, Josh Parrish running directly in his wake. So they're both not really gaining any speed on our two leaders. Josh Parrish 3.5 seconds back to Calabro.
Not going to get any easier as long as we stay under green. Brooks and Calabro have been the class of the field as of late, so Parrish and Sylvia are just getting the crumbs left of whatever left of the podium they have available. There is Tanner Berge entering the top 10, but now in a fight with Ed Papineau for position. But it's going to be Kyle Adams, the lap car in the middle of all this, which is going to play an effect. We haven't seen lap traffic just be in the way of all of these guys and maybe create a difference and fight for lead lap positions, but there's Adams regardless. And then in the midst of all this is Delaney in the 88, who is 16 laps down. So a 4-car pack with 2 lead lap cars and 2 lap down cars. It's going to be really interesting to see how they all just mix together.
Really frustrating for some of these cars out here. I mentioned Kyle Adams earlier, but another thing for that 88 Delaney, we saw him earlier absolutely charging through the field, but had an incident with Chris Story, had all that go down back there with Tanner Berge on the back, and just had to go to pit road, now 16 laps down, as we've got a fight for that third position between Parrish and Sylvia.
Parrish has to keep a keen eye on Sylvia because any mistake is going to allow that 12 car to get right in his grill. And these two might give us the race of a lifetime with 58 laps to go. Sylvia stays there and he runs a little lower than Parrish, wants to create a closer arc to the inside lane while Parrish is adamant on staying up high, but he's had to alter his lanes multiple times, Scott, because of lap traffic that most of the time want to stay out the way, so they go all the way to the top thinking nobody's going to run there. But Parrish, that's his line. Sylvia is going to run up high in replacement, but it's going to lose him time on Parrish.
Well, Parrish jumped down there all the way to the bottom, not the normal line he was running, but it was able to leapfrog the 54 car there of Corey Vaughn. A great move by him, gave him a little space between him and Sylvia, so a great move there by the 55.
Well, if you're Jake Sylvia, Scott, how difficult is it to get around Parrish? And because of that difficulty, what are you doing to either alternate your line or use some of the lap traffic as picks to get around him?
What we know about Irwindale is once the field gets spread apart like this, unless you're within 1/10 of a second, it is extremely difficult to make those passes. The only way, like we were talking about earlier, to really make that pass is to be able to throw that slide job and take it all the way down to the bottom. But if you're not close enough to do that, it is really difficult to make up ground on the guy in front of you. So Sylvia right now, he's just trying to get closer and closer to Parrish as he can and be able to throw that slide job. But until he can do that, he's going to be riding that 55's rear bumper.
Here's a pair of 16-year-olds fighting for 5th place. Tyler Muller in the 78 with Sean Urich in that purple and black 97. Right behind him, they are getting around the 54, that Flying Aces car of Corey Vaughn, who the leaders just got by. And off the corner, Muller was a little slow, inviting Urich on the inside and making the two-way fight, maybe make it three-way as the 7th place car, 251 of Alexander, dives underneath. They're going to remain door to door until they single it out. Muller and Urich could be one of our best fights of the race inside 50 laps to go. Urich is patient here right behind this 78, and both of them, even more so, Scott, are running the higher lanes.
Well, Muller's car, like we saw earlier, it is built tight over a long green flag run. He's got great pace on the short run, but right now, as we can see, as he scrapes into the wall, Urich down on the bottom, still holds behind, but Muller right into the wall there. But again, his car has built tight over this run. He's just not able to turn the car as much as Urich is. Now Urich's gonna run right down one lane below him on the bottom. They're gonna get real close to the wall right there. Wow.
The understeering setup was the main crutch for Muller over the course of that first run, and it's playing out the exact same way in this second run as we built in to one of our largest green flag runs of the night from Irwindale. But keep in mind, Jacob Alexander is there. That 251 is just going to sit on the front row and wait until Muller and Urich get into a bit of action so that Alexander can get the rest of the popcorn and swoop on by. Muller's going to hit the outside wall. There goes Urich with a wiggle on by. Alexander makes it a 2-for-1, and Muller is going to try to fight back. He taps Alexander, sends him sideways. Alexander saves it. And now we've got a caution out on the speedway as Papineau and Delaney get into it. Papineau in the grass. This was just in front of the leaders as they got by, and it was Papineau and Calabro who got into it, the second place car. Oh no. So entering turn one, Papineau behind Calabro just sends it into the corner, gets into the 71, and in the mayhem was the 88 of Delaney. Huge hit for Calabro there, Scott, who has been second basically all race long, now is going to plummet through the field as a result.
Well,
Talking about the difficulties of lap traffic, well, that's one of them.
Exactly. I was going to say that earlier, one of the big difficulties we were going to have is that the lap traffic just can't allow you to run your line, but that's not one I was thinking about. As we'll see now Justin Brooks will dive down to pit road, and everyone else will as well, except that 55 of Josh Paris. But man, right now, I know that Dylan Calabro is absolutely fuming and probably saying some words that I can't quite say here on the broadcast.
Yeah, he's not happy with that, and I can imagine as the second place car, you're basically going to lock in a podium finish, regardless of if it goes caution-free or not. Justin Brooks, though, with a really quick pit stop, sits in at about 8 seconds flat. He's going to come out of pit road and join the rest of the field, while Parrish, Berge, and some others stay out, while the 35, actually, Berge is going to come in. Parrish is going to remain out on the racetrack, and it's going to just shuffle out the rest of the field between lead lap and lap down cars. So we're going to try and figure out timing and scoring here, but we should imagine that Brooks is going to be inside the top 10 or so, just because of all the attrition and because we had so many cars a lap down.
Well, and it also looks like Brooks only took 2 tires on that pit stop there, which probably the very smart move. We saw over the course of this race, we're just over 3/4 of the way through. We've seen that tires really don't make that big of a difference. So a really great call just to take 2 and minimize that loss of position of some guys staying out and trying different things.
Well, now the challenge, Scott, is going to be for Justin Brooks to get back up through the field. The Calabro machine is right behind him, so he doesn't lose that much track position, but these two, who have been the class of the field for so long, now have to play catch-up to Josh Parrish and Tyler Muller, who are going to occupy row number 1. What's the biggest challenge for Brooks and Calabro, and is it going to be easy for them to get through the field or not?
I don't know. We've seen that I think Josh Parrish has the definite, this is the best call for Josh Parrish. We saw him running third this entire second half of the race. We know he has a lot of pace, but right now Brooks and them buried in the field about 11th, so it's going to be very difficult to come through the field for them as we got green out. Josh Parrish, your new leader.
40 laps to go from Irwindale. There's the bucked up machine of Muller on the outside, fighting with Sylvia for second. Best placement we've seen Parrish in all race long. He controls the rhythm. 39 to go this time by. Calibro pushes ahead of Brooks, who falls back to 9th place in an effort to get around the chaos in front. He gives a tap to Papini, who goes sideways at the exit of 2. He's under the apron. Now the caution comes out. We imagine the yellow was not going to fly. But even worse luck for Justin Brooks, who might get the end-of-line penalty as a result of the impact.
That is going to be devastating if that is the case for him, because man, he has led this entire race. As we're going to take a look back at what happened, the 33 car right here, Alex Papini really slow on the bottom. I don't know. Papini is very upset in the chat right now, but he was very slow on the bottom. Justin Brooks right here, another angle on the outside here. Papini slides up and just too slow, tries to cut up, but he was kind of clear, but that 33 had a lot of speed, so not sure if that Brooks is going to get the EOL there, but oh, it's close.
Yeah, Papini was absolutely going off on Brooks there, was super livid at the impact, while Brooks just said, well, you were slow on the bottom. I don't know exactly what I was supposed to do there. Papini was just there on the inside, slid up, and it was a case that we've seen often here at Irwindale tonight, just drivers using the inside. They have to wall it up to make the corner on exit. Those who run the higher lanes have to deal with those cars sliding up at a slower pace, so either they have to check up to avoid hitting them, or they perform a crossover to get underneath. And while Brooks elected not to check up, didn't have the ability to cross that 39 over, hence the contact, and as a result, Justin Brooks is going to get an end-of-line penalty from race control, so he's going to have to carve his way through traffic. He's on pit road again for a lengthier stop, and this time he's going to take left side tires, so he said, why not? If I'm going to be at the back of this group, why not take 4 fresh rubber and tires and just get this underway with 35 to go.
That's really the only call you could make there. Man, that has got to be so frustrating for Brooks, because there's really nothing he could do there. He really didn't see that slide job coming for too long, but he was trying to play it close, because he knows that he's been the fastest car all race long. He's trying to fight back up in the front, so he's really not going to have any give here in the back of the field, but now he is all the way in the back, and he will not be able to win this race today unless the entire field crashes.
We're nearly to the end of this 200 lapper for the first race of the Misfit Touring Summer Series, but if you want some more racing action, well, we have another race for you on our short track doubleheader here on Podium Esports. The first race of the MRL 2024 All-Star Shootout Series utilizing the SRX cars will go live from Slinger Speedway just after we are done here from Irwindale. So stick around for more short track action. We've got a lot of drivers that are in this series ready to take on the SRX cars with 700 plus horsepower at Slinger, one of the greatest American short tracks at only a quarter mile. That's going to be a lot of fun. Stick around.
World's fastest.
In just a moment. Yes, world's fastest. And these are the world's fastest short track racers in sim racing at the green flag with 33 to go.
Josh Parrish, another great launch. Muller on the outside, but Calibro got his position back from earlier after the pit stop, so still not as far back as we thought. Second fastest car all day long, trying to take the win now that Brooks is out of it.
And there's contact. Alexander is around in front of Sean Urich.
Did not expect that. Cautions, breed cautions. We said it earlier, and it is happening again and again. This is the best news that Josh Parrish has heard all day long, as we'll take a look back at it. That W car, that 90 of Jacob Alexander right there running the middle. Sean Urich right behind, some guys diving low. Alex Papini right there squeezing him up, and Sean Urich was there on the outside to fill the hole.
Alexander, I believe this was in an effort, Scott, to get away from Papini. Just assumed that the 39 might get up into him, so he wanted to create as much space as possible, but then closed up the space between himself and the 97 of Urich. Probably didn't anticipate, Scott, that Urich would fill that hole. Imagine that he would probably check up or wouldn't have the momentum to carry out a 4, but nonetheless, Alexander gets into the 97. A bit of the contact sends Alexander for a spin. The 251, as a result, is going to hit pit road. We are under yellow again. But every lap that we are under yellow, Scott Chive, is every lap that Josh Parrish gets to spend at the front. So maybe not the worst news for the 55.
Oh, that 55 is enjoying cruising in his late model stock car at 45 miles per hour right around Irwindale, California. This is exactly what he wants. Right now, it's like we said earlier, when Justin Brooks stayed out, we saw a rash amount of cautions behind that disavowed Sylvia's tires and guys like Parrish, like their tires. I think Parrish learned from that run when Justin Brooks stayed out that he was like, if we get a late race caution, maybe I can stay out. And this is exactly what he is wanting, Kenneth. Right now, this is eliminating the advance of Calabro, Weissman, Sylvia, and all their fresh tires and allowing him to just have plain speed.
Once again, the story for Josh Parrish was that he had to work his way from 10th in Heat 1 to get a transfer spot, and now he's in the lead, under 30 laps to go. Josh, you got a copy with us?
I gotcha.
All right, Josh, well, you've had to work hard throughout the first heat of the night and through this feature. You started 14th. You're up in the top spot on pretty old tires, but you've got a really fast race car. What's the mindset here in these closing laps?
We're going to go full send, and hopefully we'll see what happens here. Get ready to go green.
All right, ready to go green. Best of luck out there. Go get him.
Thank you.
Josh Parrish in the 55 with quick words, and he's got a very fast Toyota Camry. We'll see if anyone can topple him at the end of this one. 27 remaining from Irwindale. Parrish out early. Muller to second. Sylvia diving in on third. We're 3 wide.
Sylvia trying to take those spots back that he's lost, running in the 4th position almost all day long except for the beginning. He wants to be back up here in clean air. Meanwhile, Calabro spun earlier in the race by Ed Papineau, trying to take back second. He's at the second fastest car all day, and he wants to be past Muller.
And loose in front of Brooks as Michael Weissman holds on to the race car, and there's Papini on the very bottom. We're seeing 2 different demographics of race car drivers late in this one. Brooks sends it 3 wide, lunges into turn 1, holds it, stays at the white line, merges up into the 39, stays 3 wide. Brooks is having to work hard for all the money. 24 to go. Once we cross the start-finish line, Muller and Calabro go door-to-door for a second. We are still 3 abreast.
You know how I said Justin Brooks was out of it? I may have been wrong. He's already back up to 6th, fighting 3 wide for that 5th position, but he's on the inside of the guy that got into it with him earlier, and Alex Papini was not happy. Now he's going to be here in the middle, on the middle of inside of Papini.
Performed a slide job, and he loses the positions again, but he's got the outside on Papini. They make a bit of door-to-door contact, but Brooks has the high line advantage into 3 and 4. Papini sends it out the corner. He goes up the hill, and there goes the 33 back for the fight. We are still side by side, and every lap that Brooks struggles to get by Papini and company is every lap that these guys up front are going to have a whale of a time, knowing that the most dominant car of the race does not have a chance at winning this deal. 21 to go. Parrish is up ahead by 0.6 of a second, and finally Brooks clears the 39.
Oh, that puts him up into 6th, now going to fight Michael Weissman. But the question is, does Brooks have enough time coming down to 20 laps to go?
And keep in mind, Calabro in the 71 is still in this fight. He's still within Muller in the 78 and Jake Sylvia behind in the 12. But he really has to get by, and it's a blink of an eye here at Irwindale Speedway. It's going to be even more of a blink of an eye once we get to Slinger Speedway for the first race of the All-Star Shootout Series. Brooks remaining in his position, trying to get by Weissman, but to no avail. We've stacked it up second on back, so this might be a lot of fun to watch. 19 to go.
Muller has held that 2nd position from this restart. Again, we saw that he was very strong on the short runs. We saw that later in the run he would build tight, but this is the exact thing that Muller wanted as well. He wanted a late race caution that allowed him to get back up here at the front, and a caution that would take them right to the end. He's got more speed now, but Calabro is still right there for the taking.
Question is, does he try and get around Muller? because this time expires. As the laps wind down here at Irwindale, the desperation is going to start to rise, and it's really rising for Justin Brooks. He hugs the yellow line on the inside, all in the effort to get around this 74 Weissman, but still cannot complete this pass, and this is going to get Brooks back into the top 5, but he's wasting all this time getting around the traffic because it's so tough to pass. He hasn't spent a lot of time eyeing in on exactly what Sylvia, Calabro, and Muller are doing. Second on back, and the 33 is going to clear. He hits the outside wall, but the time is at 15 to go and counting.
I just don't think there's enough time for Brooks. Can it just takes so long to pass a guy right now on the inside of Sylvia, but it just takes so long to get that edge and be able to set it up. Just not gonna think he has enough time here to get all the way back to the lead.
And the worst news for these guys is that Josh Parrish just set a 17.56. Everyone else setting 17.6s or 7s. They are about a tenth or more slower than your race leader, who is all the way up ahead in clean air. If we don't get a caution, this might be Parrish's race to lose. An onboard look with Calabro, who gets through to second. Muller trying to fight against Jake Sylvia, and Justin Brooks in the background deciding what to do next.
Calabro finally got around Muller. A long battle there for the both of them, almost 15 laps, but I just don't think there's enough time for him to get back to Parrish, because while the second place, fourth place, third place, fifth place car are all packed together, well, Josh Parrish is 1.5 seconds ahead of them all.
And how willing are you, Scott, now that we're in the waning laps of this race, to use the bumper? Are you willing to take that risk if you're Brooks?
With these new rules that we cited for the summer series, I'm a little bit more hesitant, but I'm a little bit more in favor than I was earlier in this race. So it's going to be a calculated move if you're going to do it at all.
Brooks acting a little apprehensive in this attempted pass on Sylvia and Muller. He really isn't pushing the envelope. He's trying all that he can to get as much advantage as possible, and he's going to use the outside lane to get around Jake Sylvia. But here come the final 9 laps from Irwindale. Brooks might not have enough time. It could be good enough for him to get to at least 4th or 3rd place, but it's going to be a tall order if he wants to even get remotely close to Josh Parrish, who was pulled ahead by 1.5 seconds. Brooks is going to get to the side of Jake Sylvia. He's going to clear him entering turn 1.
Now he goes for Muller on the inside. Gonna have time to get back into our podium position, but who knows what he can do right here. Muller might be building tight, but another thing, let's remember, Josh Parrish did not qualify for this race. He didn't even set down a time. He immediately went to the heat race. So the guy who didn't even qualify is now leading with under 7 to go.
And he's on the oldest set of tires in this race. He's going to click down lap 118 on his set of rubber. There's Brooks on the outside of Muller. Both of them performing the crossovers. Muller up high, forces Brooks into the wall on the outside of turn 2. Brooks is going to complete the pass regardless, and now he has to chase for the 71 and the 55, but we're inside 5 to go.
Muller just doesn't have enough turn anymore. Like we said, he's building tight. Now that allows Sylvia to be right on his outside, and now he'll take the position, but Muller right on his bumper for the back. Now, we've got under 5 to go here. Parrish still leads, Calabro behind, and then Brooks.
With single-digit laps left, you have to think that if you're any one of these guys wanting a position, the bump and run is fully necessary. If you cannot get a run on them from raw pace, it'll be 3 laps to go for Josh Parrish in the 55, who is slowly approaching lap traffic, but he's almost 2 seconds ahead of Dylan Calabro in 2nd place, so maybe no worries at all for the man who started 14th tonight.
And what a race for Josh Parrish. Absolutely putting on a master class. Learned early from Brooks. We've seen Brooks, he led almost 150 laps of this race. And that's because when everyone pitted, he stayed out. When we got a late race caution, the exact same scenario presented itself to Parrish, and Parrish stayed out and has capitalized on that decision as we've got 2 to go at the line.
123 laps on a set of tires for Josh Parrish as he grabs the white. Started dead last in Heat 1, had to work his way to 5th, and after starting 14th tonight, Parrish dominates the last sector and wins the first race of the Misfit Touring Summer Series at Irwindale Speedway.
Wow. Wow. Excuse me there. Said 2 to go. It was actually 1 to go. And Josh Parrish loved that. Led by almost 2 seconds there at the end. What a great performance from him. Calibro, man, what a finish from him as well. We saw him get into an incident earlier with a lapped car, was able to redeem himself, get back to second, but we've got victory burnouts for Parrish.
Josh Parrish is going to occupy victory lane for the first time in the 2024 Misfit Touring Summer Series. An outstanding call to stay out and kept his intuition in check. He leads the final 50 or so laps in this race and controls the rest of the way through. Leads by over 2 seconds at one point and just under 2 seconds ahead of Dylan Calibro at the start-finish line. Parrish the winner over Dylan in a 71. In second place, Justin Brooks exhausted all of his attempts to get through traffic and still didn't have enough time. He finishes the podium position in third place. Jake Sylvia, strong all race long, really didn't escape the top 5 for most of this race. He finishes in fourth. Tyler Muller, the 16-year-old, right behind him in fifth place. Alex Papini went through back and forth action throughout the race. Got a bit of contact, but he comes home in sixth place. The 45 of Michael Weissman will be in seventh. Eighth will go to the one of Brett McCoy. Tanner Berge, who started 20th in this race, will finish in ninth. And Sean Urich to close out the top 10, Scott.
Well, then back behind them, we had the 54 of Corey Vaughn. Came in from our heat race and finished very well. Then that 251 of Jacob Alexander. Saw him have some incidents throughout the race, only 1 lap down at the finish. Then that 11 of Randy Sargent from the Midwest, only 2 laps down. Ed Papineau finishes 14th in that 10 car. Guy who got into Calibro was only 10 laps down. I say only. Then race director Kyle Adams, 12 laps down from that incident earlier with our winner of Josh Parrish. Then behind them, that 88 of Delaney also had an issue. We saw the 21 of Michael Ostadike have an issue, spun out of 2, down in 17th. Then in 18th, Ty Dennis, 19th, Chris Story, and in 20th, 156 laps down, was that 15 of Deegan Smith. That rounds out your field today, and we're gonna have our first driver will be with Kenneth, your winner, Josh Parrish.
We join the victor of this Misfit Touring Summer Series opener from Irwindale, Josh. We talked to you shortly before one of the restarts, and you said, I'm just going to full send it, and full send it you did. Even on the oldest set of tires in the field at the winning laps, you pulled away by almost 2 seconds, and you get this win from the back to the front in Heat 1, then from 14th on the grid in the feature to the top spot. How good and rewarding does this race feel for you?
Yeah, man, it's pretty awesome to be able to come away with the win after 200 laps there at Irwindale. I actually messed up. I didn't realize what time the session started, so I completely missed qualifying. Loaded in the race set and just kind of sit in the heat race, see what happened, sorted out, I think, in fifth, and made the transfer and just worked from there, starting 14th on the grid.
And at a track like Irwindale that rubbered in so much through the heat races, the consolation, and this really long feature at 200 laps, how were you able to find a way to pass drivers? It seemed as though the inside was really the only place to do it unless somebody made a mistake and you could go on the outside of one, but you were able to swimmingly cross through the field. It seemed like you were the best car setup-wise to weave through traffic. What was that like, and what helped you get through the field through the difficulty of getting around traffic here?
Yeah, I mean, one thing I pitted pretty early when a lot of guys stayed out, I think, and then I was able to stay out later to get a little bit of that track position back. The biggest thing was on restarts. Anytime I got the top side on a restart, you could really pick them off kind of on the exit of 2, just rolling the momentum, so you could get them one by one there. And then, honestly, just RKM Setup Shop, I can't say enough about those guys. Ryan Kuhn, and then also Corey Bodie put in a lot of time there today, testing the setup, getting it dialed in for us, and it was a rocket ship when it came time for it.
It really was, and it rocketed off of the final restart, and you never looked back. You had some lap traffic in front of you, but it really didn't matter. You stay up front, and you get the first win here in this 2024 Misfit Touring Summer Series. How much does that help you momentum-wise? We head to Stafford, which is going to be on May 6th. It is going to be a little while before we get the next race, but how much momentum does that give you for even other races across the MRL categories and, of course, this series once we get to Stafford next?
Yeah, man, it's definitely a good confidence booster. I've been struggling lately with some of the late model stock stuff, having over in the Sara series, having some rough runs over there. So it was really cool to come over here, have a good clean run, and pick up a win. It's definitely a confidence booster, and hopefully we'll carry the momentum into Stafford.
Well, hopefully that momentum carries you into another great finish at Stafford in this series, and hopefully some better luck on the Sara side as well. Congratulations, Josh, on this big victory here from Irwindale Speedway, a way to dominate the last sector of the race on behalf of all of us. Congratulations on the W, and hopefully we'll see you at Stafford soon.
Thank you, guys. See you at Stafford.
So that is Josh Parrish, the winner of the first race here in this 2024 Misfit Touring Summer Series in California. We joined Dylan Calabro in second place with Scott Shive.
Well, Dylan, back again here for the first race of the Summer Series. Well, I know you wanted to finish just one place better, but finish second here tonight. Take me through the first half of that race. What was it like following behind Justin Brooks, fighting it out, and just running in second? You two ran away with it.
Yeah, I think being behind him actually helped me out a ton. I mean, he's one of the best drivers on this simulator. So, I mean, I learned quite a bit on him, like what the line to run to save the tires. And me and him are actually pretty even with our tire wear stuff towards when we pit. But
Another thing that goes to show how fast you are, Dylan. We saw you finish P3 in the spring race just 2 weeks ago. But right in the middle of this race, you and Ed Papineau had an incident as you were running P2 behind Brooks. Take me through that and what comes up in your mind as a driver when something like that happens?
yeah, I don't really know what was going on. I mean, I passed him cleanly. He seemed like he just let me by. We going into turn one, and next thing I know, I'm facing the infield. I mean, I don't know either he just didn't hit the brake pedal or not, but I guess there was a reason I was lapping him and he wasn't lapping me. But it's racing. We'll move on from it, and I'll beat him again next week. So.
Well, you definitely put it into the right words. It is definitely frustrating. I can understand that one for sure. Once that happened to you, what was your mindset at? iRacing gave you a bit of the position back, but you had to go into the pits and were down, I believe, in fourth or fifth on the restart. Take me through coming through the field to eventually get back to P2.
Yeah, at that point, I just wanted to win. I mean, there was a couple holes that opened up with Moeller and Jake, and I just filled them. Because at that point, I mean, I was in a good spot because I had a feeling if something happened to Brooks, maybe I could have done it, and then that happened. So at that point, I knew I had the fast car, so I just wanted to go out and try and win.
Well, you absolutely had a fast car tonight. Finish P2. Now, at the beginning of the next month, we'll have race 2, which will be at Stafford. Take me through that. What are you looking to prepare for over the next month until that race?
I don't really know. I mean, Stafford's one of my home tracks on this simulator, so I mean, I kind of have a decent amount of laps on it, so I feel pretty confident going into it. That track's pretty big on tire wear in a way, so really mainly it's going to be another tire saving race for the 225 laps I think we have to run. So I mean, anything can happen like this week today. So.
Well, there we go. Dylan Calabro, confident about the run at Stafford. Dylan, before I let you go, anyone you'd like to thank tonight?
SCD Sales and Liquidation, Helger South Coast Power Equipment, Yacht Club Soda, and then RKM Setup Shop. I think I'm forgetting. Oh yeah, PD Designs also. Hit them up if you need a wrap.
There we go. Hit them up if you need a wrap. Well, thank you for joining us tonight, Dylan. Up next, we'll have your third place finisher, Justin Brooks, and he'll be with Kenneth.
Here indeed with Justin Brooks, who comes home in third, the dominator through most of this race. Justin, how much time do you figure you might have needed left to catch up to the 7 you won and, of course, the race winner?
I mean, I honestly don't know. I needed a yellow for sure. I got put in a bad spot there. I thought I had the race in hand and was pitting for fuel only because the tires in my car was really good. I was saving tires throughout the race, and some laps I'd push it and just drive away. I could put the car anywhere I wanted. And when I was coming out of pits, for whatever reason, it told me that, you know, it was green, good to go, like pits are open. And I guess right when I got to the line, it pits closed, and they gave me an EOL. And when that happened, I got back in traffic, and I had a run in with the 39 car when he come off the corner right in front of me, and I had nowhere to go. And I figured I'd just take an EOL from my pit and go and throw tires on there, and drove through the field, and as you saw, just ran out of time.
A dominating race turned on its head. I imagine you really had to adjust it. You had to adjust a lot through the waning laps of the race. But you talked about a bit of the setup, how you could really push the tires whenever you wanted to and point the car anywhere. How pivotal was that into pulling away from the field? Because it seemed as though many points in this race, you were a tenth or two faster than the rest of the lead lap cars behind you. How pivotal was this setup, and obviously your driving style helping to create a pretty successful drive around Irwindale?
Oh yeah, setup definitely matters, and Irwindale is one of my favorite tracks. I'd say my driving style is perfect for this place, and the setup, like I said, it was just dialed in, and I was trying to, like I said, save gas because I knew if it went green, I was going to be really close on making out of gas. But the laps, like I said, I would just be blazing fast. The car would go to top, bottom, middle, run anywhere. It was just about pretty much perfect. It's just, like I said, a shame that happened, and didn't come home here with a checkered flag today.
Well, Justin, nonetheless, a great third place finish. We imagine that's still going to be good momentum heading into Stafford in early May. So on behalf of all of us at the broadcast team, congratulations on the podium, and hopefully we'll see you soon and at Stafford next month.
Yeah, thank you guys. I'll see you.
So that's Justin Brooks. Close, but no cigar at the end, unfortunately, for one of the fastest cars on the racetrack. But Scott, we had a lot of fun here at Irwindale. First race in the Misfit Touring Summer Series. Next month at Stafford will create its equal challenges to what we saw tonight in California. Your biggest takeaways after our first race of a doubleheader?
Man, I'm excited for the next 6 to come here from the series. It was so awesome to watch these drivers. They really fought out there with respect with each other and just produced a great race, which is what we know is from the Misfit Racing League. They always produce great races out there. So thankful to be able to cover them. But now it's not over for us tonight, Kenneth. We get to go and cover now the first time in the SRX car.
We do. We'll get into all those details in just a moment, but a big congratulations to Josh Parrish, who pulled away from everybody else in the late stages of the race and had to carve his way through the field in order to get there. A hard-earned victory at Irwindale for Parrish. Stick around. On the other side, we'll have the first race of the MRL All-Star Shootout Series from the new and improved Slinger Speedway with the SRX cars. That comes your way next on Podium Esports. The second race of our short track doubleheader starts now. You're tuned in to Podium Esports' coverage of the Misfit Racing League and the 2024 All-Star Shootout Series using the brand new SRX car at the brand new Slinger Speedway on iRacing. Welcome to our coverage. Kenneth Bueno and Scott Shive along with you in the booth. Ryan Bauer, our great producer, all night long using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. This is first and foremost the All-Star Series of MRL, Scott, which means it's more about fun than anything else. We know the competition is going to be high. On the left, locked-in drivers, a lot of them that we saw in the Irwindale race just moments ago. Most of the same cast. And then our schedule, starting with Slinger tonight.
Well, we've got Slinger up tonight, then we go out to Eldora, then down to Langley, and then over to South Boston. Then our fifth race will be at Stafford, and then September 2nd, this will be a cool one, we'll be at Kimono, and then back to Slinger to bookend our series. But this is the home racetrack for a lot of these Misfit guys, so a lot of them have a lot of practice out here at a really fun racetrack.
You're right, this track in the heart of Slinger, Wisconsin. A lot of the drivers based out of the state that's known for cheese. This is the world's fastest quarter-mile oval, according to Slinger Speedway themselves. It opened back in 1948 and has a staggering 33 degrees of banking in turns 1 through 4. That is more banking than Talladega Super Speedway, which sits at 2.66 miles in Lincoln, Alabama. So, Scott, this track gives you a shunt on the banking. It is a crazy track to drive. It's super short, very fast. It's a combination of what makes driving this track really challenging, but also really rewarding when you get it right.
Yeah, really rewarding. It's very interesting to drive. While you talked about that banking, another interesting thing is the front stretch has just about 4 to 5 degree banking, but the back stretch has almost 20 degrees, just shy of it, around 18. So a bit of a difference there, and it really creates a different drive on how you exit turn 2 and how you exit turn 4. Also, another thing about this track, there are bumps everywhere, all throughout the corners, also adding to the way you drive this track.
Slinger is not a track that's afraid to show its age, which adds to the difficulty of getting around this circuit and getting around it very fast. We looked at the locked-in drivers for this All-Star Shootout Series. We do have more that will try to race their way in. We have a similar format to what we saw a little bit ago with the Summer Series at Irwindale. We will have multiple 15-lap heat races, then a 100-lap feature, but instead of inverting 6 drivers, we will invert them all. And the biggest thing to note about this All-Star Shootout Series, Scott, is that we are using the brand new SRX car. We talked about how it is to drive and sort of the unique characteristics of it before we went back live here on Podium Esports. What's about this car that's crazy to drive, and what's so interesting about this new addition to the sim?
Well, first of all, I'm so glad that it's in the sim because it is such a cool style of car, but it is really weird to drive. It's almost like you combine sort of a super late model with a late model stock. This car gives you the idea that it's tight. When you're in that driver's seat, it feels like, well, there's no way I can spin. I'm locked into the ground, but it easily tricks you and turns into a super late model, and that rear becomes so loose. Some people have compared it to, it's almost like driving a boat on land. And if you didn't know, driving a boat in the water is hard. So I think driving a boat on land might be even tougher.
Yeah, it's basically like a boat on rails. It feels like one, but it is cool to drive. About 700 horsepower, not a lot of downforce, and really crazy rear wing straight out of the 70s. We're ready for the grid in heat number 1. 8 drivers total. 13 are set to advance, so basically everyone will make the feature race. It starts with Kyle Adams on row number 1 with Jake Grout. Then Justin Crow in the 86 joins inside row 2 with Michael Weissman in the number 74 on the outside. Ed Papineau will be in the 10 car from 5th. Tyler Merler will be from 6th place, 7th and 8th. Brett McCoy and Randy Sargent to the green flag in heat.
They're already around.
And we're already having a car around and hard into the wall. Weissman up there along with everyone else. Yellow is going to fly now, and 2nd place is around.
Wow, Justin Crowe goes around there off the bumper of the leader, or excuse me, off of his rear bumper there, as we'll get a replay as to what happened. This is the start of the race with that number 9 on the inside, Jake Grout on the outside. Good, clean restart here, but we're looking at Michael Weissman, that 74, that 78 in Muller behind him, just got a really good jump, got right into the back of Weissman.
A hard hit there for Weissman, who comes back to P6. And our caution out early here on lap 3 of 15. Another look. This is from Muller. Weissman gets into the wall, goes down the track, and back up the 33 degrees of banking here at Slinger. It's a pretty big hill you have to climb, and for Weissman carrying all that momentum gives them damage. It looks like it won't be enough to take them out of this race, but Muller has hit pit road, which is actually on the outside of the speedway. Because this quarter-mile track is so short, you can't even fit pit road on the inside of the racing surface. You have to go up the hill on the outside. Muller down there falls 2 laps down as we were looking at some of the track condition. Track temp at about 69 degrees. So I guess we'll get to racing here. Lap 5 of 15. Jake Grout, Justin Crowe, your front row. Pace car is out from the back straightaway. That's the entrance of pit road here at Slinger. They'll take to the huge banking in 3 and 4. Early jump by Grout and Crowe, and there goes a spinner. It's Grout.
Grout already around, just gets loose there up off the corner. Not sure if that was the case, but Justin Crowe will now assume the lead. We'll take a look back real quick at what happened here. That beautiful SRX dash. Yes, he just gets a little loose. Might have gotten a bump from Ed Papineau behind, not sure, but we're riding along with Jake Grout to see what happened. Starting on the inside here, we saw him spin around, but yes, no contact, just gets loose on the start.
Well, Scott, you talked about this track. Not afraid to show its age. A lot of the bumps and little abrasions here at Slinger. Well, you hop on the throttle in a 700-plus horsepower race car, and it is going to light up the rear tires, and it did so for Grout. Just goes right out of control. In the midst of all of that was Ed Papineau, gets a bit of the front-end contact. The field is almost at a snail's pace, waiting for the pace car. They have finally picked it up. Justin Crowe is going to sit right behind it. And there's Barney the flagman waving the yellow. We might see a lot of those here tonight at Slinger, especially based off of what we saw at Irwindale. A lot of contact. Great racing, though, but you cut down this track, it's a quarter of a mile. And, Scott, it really does get tough to avoid any lick of contact.
Well, another reason I think we're seeing that is a lot of these drivers that are racing here were just in a race back at Irwindale. And again, these two cars are very different to drive, and it is hard for a driver to go from driving one style of car and immediately into another. You have to completely change your mindset of how the car operates and how you can drive it. So that's why we might see a lot of contact here in our heat races, guys spinning, things of that nature, just because as a driver, you've got to flip that switch, and sometimes it takes a few laps.
A lot of the guys who ran that first race at Irwindale joined this session with maybe 15 and 10 minutes left, a little under that. They didn't have a lot of time to hop in and practice at Slinger. We're back under green, this time with Justin Crowe and Brett McCoy on the front row. A bit of contact. We've had some crashes here and there, but we're now under green flag racing. We'll see if we can complete this one under normal circumstances. We do. McCoy and Crowe are still side by side at the exit of turn 4. They are not giving an inch to each other. Papineau has entered 3rd place. McCoy and Crowe still going at it.
Muller, after the spin, sits in 4th, but Brett McCoy into the wall, and now he's around.
He spins up the hill at the exit of turn 2. The yellow flag is not going to fly. We're going to go to the final 2 laps of heat 1. Crowe and Papineau, your top 2. Weissman, who crashed earlier in this race, up to 3rd. There's the look at McCoy, who goes right to the grass and rejoins the track safely. Crowe is going to come out of 4 to the white flag. Final lap from Slinger, car around, and it is the 17 of Randy Sargent into the grass, but it's no matter for Justin Crowe, who gets to the win in Heat 1.
Ed Papineau follows right behind Michael Weissman, finishing 3rd, then Kyle Adams and Jake Grout. Looked like the 17 was doing some donuts down there, down on the bottom after his spin.
Even with all those cautions, Scott, that race went by in a hurry. Justin Crow, the winner in the number 86 in heat number 1, and Papano to come home in second. Weissman to recover from an early crash to come home in third. Kyle Adams also rebounds from early scuffles to fourth. Jake Grout fifth, then sixth, seventh, and eighth. Brett McCoy, Randy Sargent, and Tyler Muller, your 8-car field in heat number 1. Let's turn over to heat 2, where on the front row, it would be Bradley Stefane in his number 89 machine, gonna roll off from first. Grant Brown on the outside of row 1 in second. Deegan Smith, who unfortunately could not finish out the rest of that Irwindale race moments ago. We'll try to get a better finish tonight in the All-Star Shootout Series from third. Chris Story also had a rough one with the late model stocks at Irwindale. He'll be fourth here in heat number 2. Jared Sutherland, who missed the show earlier on tonight, will look to make the show this time around. Alex Papini is sixth, seventh to Dylan Calabro, and eighth to Jake Sylvia. Those two in the back row, seventh and eighth, were top 5 finishers not that long ago. Pace car is down at the exit of turn 2. A bit of a wait before you get to turn 4 and the green flag, where Bradley Stefane and Grant Brown will visit it first. A bit of contact and the car sideways and spinning. It is Tegan Smith. Caution is out.
Smith went around real quick. Just the same thing happened to Jake Grout earlier. Deegan Smith just lights him up on the restart, gets that rear end loose, and goes right around. We'll take a replay and look back at what happened. Just gets on the guys. Actually has a little bit of contact there with Story on the outside, but that wasn't the cause of what eventually got him loose. Then got tagged by, I believe it was Jake Sylvia in the back, lost his rear bumper.
Turn 4 is getting a lot of guys off their groove and sending them for a quick spin for Deegan Smith. Add on to that, a rear clip torn apart as he came back up the racetrack, and in the way was Dylan Collarbro in the 71 with nowhere to go. Gives him a bit of a hip check and bends the bumper off of Deegan Smith's machine. He is going to stay on track, though. I guess the good thing, Scott, about a race that has a track this short is that you really can damage the race car and take a couple of hits, and it's really not going to affect you that much.
It's not going to affect you that much unless iRacing does the thing that says, hey, you gotta pit. I hate when it does that really badly, but hopefully that doesn't happen to these guys, and it is a little bit harder here with a short track like this, but here we go again.
And contact between your leaders, they're both around on the inside. Stefane and Story with a spin.
Exact same thing, just a little bit more contact this time, but almost the same. Grant Brown and that 89 of Stefane have contact on the restart, gets Stefane loose, and around he goes. We'll take a look at it, exact same, just, yep, and Story happened right behind him. Didn't even see that, both just light up the rears. That's a big thing we might see tonight. It was.
Synchronized cycle, look at this.
Whoa!
They look like Sims spinning at the same time.
It's race car synchronized dancing. I think that should be in the. I think that should be an Olympic sport.
I mean, they have breakdancing in there, so why not? iRacing spinning.
Hey, in race cars we break, and apparently we dance. So I think we can do both.
Can we have an iRacing Olympics somewhere, Scott? Do you think that would work?
I think so. I mean, I think we should. Can I compete?
Oh man, we try to go for the gold medal in yapping on race cars. But yeah, really.
Hey, we win. We would win. We would
win. But I don't know if we can stand the likes of some of the goats in sim racing broadcasting.
Good point.
But regardless, Bradley Stefane, who was up front along with Chris Story, both of them spin. They drop to the field. An early start for Grant Brown. It is not easy to be on this inside lane through the restarts. It's going to be 8 to go here in heat 2. Brown the leader, Papini the spinner behind. Stefane, it is in trouble, but we are not going to throw the yellow quite yet. Papini back in second. Sylvia and Deegan Smith getting physical for third place.
Oh.
And up the hill is Papini. Actually, that's Sylvia. No, that is Papini.
That was Papini into the wall, out of the second position, just got loose coming out of 2 and into the tire barrier. And now we've got the caution out as Deegan Smith takes second.
I apologize there. It was Papini who went up the hill and hard into the tire barriers in turn 2. Gonna look at the replay inside. 5 to go. This was right behind your leader in Grant Brown. I think the car just stepped out of shape there, Scott. Just went up the hill as a result.
Well, Papini had a really good restart. Looked like he saw what happened to Grant Brown's Stefane. decided to let Grant Brown go and stay in second position. But right here we see he gets off the throttle and the car just gets loose. Sometimes in these cars, if you brake too late, the rear brakes activate more than the front, and your rear brakes might lock up, and that's another thing that can send you around in the entry of the corner.
And then as you overcorrect, you just go up the hill, and there's really not a lot of space that you take up because this track is so short and not that wide, so you're gonna hit a wall somewhere. And unfortunately, that was at the exact place of the racetrack where pit road starts and where those tire barriers jut out from the outside wall. So Papini with a pretty sizable hit. He's 4 laps down and counting on pit road. Final 3 to go in heat number 2. Grant Brown away early, Deegan Smith to second, Jake Sylvia sliding into third. This will be a final attempt at getting this heat over with. We had a spinner in the back. That was Jared Sutherland. Brown is going to take the white flag. Smith and Sylvia behind. Sylvia looking to get around the 15 car. In the final attempt at 3 and 4, he gives Smith the shove, but it does not work. He gets in the story, and Grant Brown is going to win heat 2.
Tried to give the bumper to Deegan Smith, but it got him loose. He decided to back off to make sure he didn't spin Deegan Smith and lost the position to Story.
So here are the results after a pretty crazy Heat 2 race, where it is Grant Brown getting the W, Deegan Smith and Chris Story to round out your top 3, Sylvia, Calabro, Sutherland, Stefane, and Papini to round out the top 8. And here we are, quick enough to get to the starting grid of our 100-lap feature to kick off the 2024 All-Star Shootout Series utilizing these new SRX machines. On the pole will be Alex Papini in the number 11. As we invert, Tyler Muller will be on the outside in second. 2 of those drivers suffering pretty stuttering endings to their heat races. Bradley Stefane and Randy Sargent third and fourth in row number 2. Jared Sutherland going to round out the top 5 and flanked by Brett McCoy in the 16 on the top. Dylan Calabro in the number 71, who finished in the top 3 at Irwindale moments ago. He'll start from 7th with Jake Proud on the outside at 8. Jake Sylvia and Kyle Adams got to round out the top 10.
Well, then we'll have Chris Story, who just had that moment with Jake Sylvia, followed by Michael Weissman and Deegan Smith. Then in 14th, your 10 of Ed Papineau, followed by Grant Brown and Justin Crow, will wrap out your top 16 for this race.
The guys who won heats 1 and 2 have to work a lot for the rest of this race, but they have to hope that they can escape all of the calamity. Green flag for race 1 of the All-Star Shootout Series. A pretty clean jump into turn 1. Papini's going to hold on to the lead, and multiple cars sideways.
I heard the tires, and I wasn't sure yet who it was. Not sure who started it now, but we've got the 13 car around, or excuse me, the 17 of Randy Sargent. We'll take a look back at what truly happened. The 2 blue cars there. There we go with Randy Sargent. Yes, and the 13 just gets into him, and that's the 13 of Jared Sutherland.
Oh boy, Sutherland sliding up into Sargent at the entrance of turn 1. I think Sutherland got a piece of the apron before going up the banking and then into Sargent's machine, and as they were ricocheting up the track, comes Ed Papineau, a pretty decent hit, and back there was also Jake Grout in the 12, who performed well in one of the heat races. Unfortunately, he's caught up in this as well. There's a look from Grout, that gray and orange machine at the top, nowhere to go.
Well, you know, one thing, I've been racing at Slinger the past week or so, Kenneth, in the late model stock, and one thing that I learned, at Slinger, it is an absolute race of survival, and that's with rookies. But out here, these are the guys who drive a lot. These guys are really good, but the difference maker is this car, this SRX. It is so difficult to drive, and it makes these drivers so loose. So right now, one thing I'm thinking is this is going to be a race of attrition, a race of survival.
And like you said, this car with absolutely no side force, so as soon as you get a bit of yaw in this race car, you are gone. Green flag back in the air for lap 5 of 100. Papini pulls away from Muller. Side by side, they are for third. That's Stefane and Calabro. Stefane goes sideways. He saves it right in front of the 67 of Chris Story. We single out through the top 5. And a spinner.
Stefane is around again.
Stefane
Caution is out.
Catching the 16 of Brett McCoy. Not as much damage picked up by the field, but we are going to throw the yellow regardless.
Well, Stefan is absolutely pushing that car to the limit. Saw it step out just a moment before. We'll see right here. Story on his outside. Story actually got into him a little bit there. Yeah, that's what sent him around. 89 got loose. Story wasn't able to check up, and that second tap was the eventual spin by Stefan. We'll get a rear bumper look here down into the bottom. Yep, Story gives him that first bump. That was that first incident. Now down here in 1 and 2, Story gives him a tap on the right rear side of the car and takes Stefan out.
You know what, the first bump actually set Stefan's machine straight. He was about to spin at the exit of 4, and Story got him right back to at least some stability, but then entering the corner, Stefan was loose. The 67 of Story was there, couldn't really avoid it, and then Brett McCoy in his number 16 machine also goes around as a result of just reacting to the situation. And this track really isn't helping the case either, Scott, because this track was born in 1948. It has so many bumps, all the little details off the laser scan from iRacing. This track is old, and it really just tells you how it can rip up the tires and how it can rip up a race car in one fell swoop, and it's taken out so many guys, specifically on the bottom where the bumps really get worse.
Well, Dale Jr. was talking about it recently on the download, talking about how concrete just warps over time. There's a reason that most concrete slabs are cut into slabs. It's because as the seasons go around, as weather cools up and or cools down and heats up, the concrete bows. So when you put it all together in one slab like this on the racetrack, it creates those bumps, as we've got green out here on the track.
He's going to lead him back into turn 1 with Muller on the outside. There's
way to the bottom, Deegan Smith around.
Story, and here he goes for a spin. Yellow is out again. We have a parking lot at the exit of 2 with Papineau, Sargent, and Sutherland.
Sorry I cut you off there, but back in the back, Kyle Adams went all the way to the grass, came up around the track, and collided into half the field.
Another look at this off the restart. Here's Adams on the inside of the 3rd row. Calabro's going to go for a spin, but that really isn't the marquee event that happens in this caution. Adams is going to go for a slide. He's going to save it, but he doesn't have enough time to woe it down to make the corner. So here he goes, up into everyone else. Oh,
wow.
Man.
Just wasn't able to pump the brakes right when he got to that grass. Those tires locked up, and that was all he could do. There was nothing else he could do. Just got upset with the car. As we'll take a look back here from the 10 of Ed Papineau, started in the back because of the invert. Just taking a look, Kyle Adams on the bottom there and collides the field. He tries to avoid and puts that 86 car up and over.
He goes for a fly. That's Justin Crow, the Heat 1 winner. And also involved was Grant Brown, the Heat 2 winner earlier tonight. They took out many others in the process: Deegan Smith, Bradley Stefan, and then of course Ed Papineau, who we had the onboard look with. We're under caution again here on lap number 17 and crossing to 18 of 100. Well, this has been fun.
I'm having a great time. I don't know.
Fun to watch, no doubt.
I don't know how about the drivers are feeling right now. Alex Papini probably really wants to run it out, try to get away. One thing that we know is these drivers, if they can single file out, also see the cars right now dodging and weaving. Actually, in the SRX series, we have the choose cone, so we're gonna have that applicable here at this racetrack. But right now, these drivers, I know some of them definitely want some green flag racing.
Papini's got the bottom. He'll take the lead over Muller, entering turn 1. Story into 3rd, Stefan into 4th, and rounding out the top 5 is Jake Sylvia, who's eyeing in on making the move towards the bottom side in 3 and 4. Sideways is Story. They check up behind, but they keep it clean. Here at lap 19, Story on the inside of Stefan. They make contact. Sylvia now on the inside of the back straightaway. He dives in on the 67. This is all for 3rd. They doorbang, and Calabro goes for a slide. And he's around. He collects the 74 of Weissman, no yellow.
Well, they're not around. Story into the wall, and now the yellow is out. Many incidents around the track. Story got loose right there. Stefan moved him up. Sylvia dived down low. Then back here in the back of the pack, actually right here with Calabro, he went around on the inside of Stefan.
On the inside, going around Stefan, and it's really the contact that sends him sideways, not the bumps on the inside of the racetrack. The 74 of Weissman, obviously no space he could use to get around Calabro with all the momentum he was carrying off the corner. So again, we are under yellow. I think the main case for these drivers into avoiding incidents is to just wing it. Do whatever possible because there isn't much space to use on this track. You don't have a lot of time to whoa it up when someone goes sideways in front of you. So I guess taking the impact might just be the best case scenario sometimes.
It really is sometimes, unless you can, unless you have the fastest hands in the world and can whip a left or whip a right. Honestly, whipping a left might bring you to a stop or get you out of the way, but these brakes, they're not the most, I don't know, they just don't stop you that quickly is the way I can put it. These cars, they just carry so much speed around a track like this that you're really just not able to stop on a dime like you might be able to in some other types of race cars. So really when you see that in front of you, you have to go into a mind of avoidance. And a lot of things, Kenneth, is a lot of the wrecks we've seen, well, they've put a blockade in front of the entire track, so there is nowhere to go.
It really isn't. We're under caution at lap 26 of 100. We are going to double them up with the choose cone, but Papini has been adamant on using the inside lane to help them get away from Muller, especially off the jump. And as long as he stays ahead through all of these cautions, it really is what matters. Green flag back in the air. There is Papini out ahead early. Muller back to second. Ristori and Jake Sylvia in the bout for third place. A spinner in the back. It's Deegan Smith.
No caution right now. We stay green. Tyler Muller sideways in second position. He holds it together, but might lose the place to Jake Sylvia. Still holds it. Then in the back, we've got guys fighting 2 and 2 wide.
What a save by Tyler Muller. He had that about wrecked. Story also sideways. He gets moved out of line. There's Bradley Stefane to slide up in front. Story checks up. A bit of contact as now he fights with the 14 of Brown. Stefane goes for another spin in front of the pack. Nobody else is involved. No yellow at lap 29 of 100. Papini has pulled away to 7/10 of a second.
We're still green. Chris Story takes fourth away. But back, Jake Sylvia on the bumper of Tyler Muller. Papini out in front.
Sylvia, one of the fastest cars on the racetrack. He started this feature back in 9th place, so +6 with all of the attrition and everything that's gone down here at Slinger. And just as quickly as we get this restart is just as quickly as Papini is going to settle into getting around lap traffic, and it's going to start with that 89 car of Bradley Stefane. Then Smith and Justin Crow going at it for actual track position. But it's going to be fun to see Papini weave through traffic. Caution is out again. This time it's 4. That is Adams once more.
He gets into Sylvia.
Oh, and Sylvia goes for a spin. On the back straightaway, Kyle Adams gets into Jake Grout, who goes for a flyover in turn 2. Watch this. There's the 71 and the 12 going at it. Grout is going to be up against the barrier. Look how high he flies off this one.
Wow, want to take a replay. Hopefully we can get one of how Jake Grout got up there. Man, he was absolutely, as we'll look at it here, Jake Grout and the 71. Yep, Calabro just gets into him, and that tire barrier just lifts Grout right off the wall. Kyle Adams had nowhere to go. Then Kyle Adams came back down the track, and Jake Sylvia was there while we were under caution. We'll take a look back from the view of Jake Grout. Just gets spun and then, woo, up in the air. Well, that's a lot of pavement.
A lot of damage there to Grout, and there are no faster pairs in this series. And then here's a look from Sylvia. He was just trying to get around the incident. Kyle Adams tries to rejoin the track and into the quarter panel of Sylvia. Good news for Sylvia is that he's going to continue his race from 3rd place, so he's not going to lose track position, but a bit of drama there off the yellow.
Adams had it locked down and then started to move, and Sylvia was coming right through, but Sylvia gets that position back as we were already under caution, and I think it's been smoothed out.
Justin Crow, the winner of Heat 1, is going to be out of this race. He is disconnected from the session, so make that our first proper DNF other than Jared Sutherland in the 13. We're going to have them doubled up again. The question is, who can stop Alex Papini? Jake Sylvia has carved his way through the field. It's about how much time he really has to use. Lap 39 of 100. Sideways is Muller before we get the drop of the green. Papini out in front. Story has a nose on the inside for second.
That 67 car is trying to take away third from Jake Sylvia. Sylvia powers it around on the outside. We look here at Muller sitting nicely in 7th position. Then Sylvia still on the outside of Story, trying to get an edge, and he will. He'll take third.
Sylvia pulls ahead of Story, who's going to fight back hard on the inside, but Sylvia clears for third. Now his obstacle is Tyler Muller, the next car in line, and watching his move on Story there, you'd imagine that running the middle is much smoother than running the bottom. There's a huge jut and a bump that you hit at the exit of 4 that has caught so many drivers off guard. Sylvia has taken advantage of using the high side for that. Look at Muller way sideways from 2nd place.
Another great save from that 78 car. Loses a lot of time on the leader, and now Sylvia is right on his bumper, looking for 2nd position. We got a car spun on the grass, but we'll stay green.
It's Brett McCoy, goes for a slide into the grass. We are still green flag racing. A look on board with Deegan Smith in the number 15, looking to get around Jake Grout, who went for a huge tumble not that long ago, but somehow he is in 8th. We are door to door though for P4, Grant Brown, the Heat 2 winner on the inside of Story.
Brown really fast in this SRX car, really understands how to drive it here at Slinger. We saw him really fast.
Sorry,
Sylvia's around.
Weissman and hard into the wall. And Jake
Muller's around.
The spinner, caution is out.
Muller went around, I think it was right before the caution came out. Not sure if he's going to get his position back right there, but Story was the lead incident that brought out that caution. Wow.
Another look at it. Story and Weissman, it's going to be the contact in turn 3.
Oh, look at Weissman down here on the bottom, just not enough room between the two from that angle. Not sure who directly caused that, but those cars were extremely close together. Story on the outside just gets a little tap from Weissman there, not able to hold it. And then this is where Tyler Muller was spun right after the caution came out, just got loose in turn 2.
So as he was coming out of 4, the car was lost as he came up the hill, tagged the wall, and just went for a slide before fully sending it sideways. So this is after the caution comes out.
That's where it started. It started on the straightaway, got just really a great run off of 4, and then Weissman caused the incident with Story, and then immediately runs into Muller on the top.
And now Muller is 3 laps down and counting from 13th place. So after being in 2nd for a good amount of this feature race, gets the slam from Weissman, who goes right up to pit road. Muller joins him.
I think it goes to show you what a race we're looking at here today. At least with this car and at Slinger, you might be able to go from 0 to 0.
Just as quickly as it goes here at Slinger. This is not Irwindale Speedway.
No.
Here's the choose cone on the 1 degree, and Alex Papini is going to choose the bottom like he has all race long. Grant Brown, who was the winner in heat number 2, is going to be here on the front row. Jake Sylvia from 3rd, Bradley Stefan back up to 4th. On the outside is Brown fighting against Papini. They're going to be door-to-door entering turn 1. Good jump by Brown and keep there with your leader. There's a car slow on the inside. Going to let everybody by. Papini wins the war out of turn 4.
That's Muller coming back on track from pit road, getting his damage fixed. Papini takes it away from Grant Brown. Grant Brown might be his biggest competition yet, but Alex Papini running great out at the lead.
Papini, one of those drivers who raced his way in. He was not one of those locked-in drivers to this All-Star Shootout Series. Meanwhile, Brown and Sylvia, they are 2 of those drivers who are locked in no matter what happens in any of these races. 2 of the best short-track drivers so far right now, looking to catch up to Papini. Yellow is out again, and this time it's for a stopped Ed Papineau, along with the 17 of Randy Sargent.
We'll take a look back at what happened here between these 2 cars. Ed Papineau right here on the back of Randy Sargent. Sargent just gets a little high up there in the corner, but no contact yet. Ed Papineau just riding around. Randy Sargent looks like he just had a really slow entry into 3 and 4 there, and Papineau was unable to check up. We'll get a rear view here of what really happened riding along with Sargent.
Contact, and they're sideways. Papano didn't think that Sargent was rolling that slow through the corner. It just makes a bit of that contact. And as they're going off of the corner, really hard to judge how to get out of the way. And again, because we're at a quarter-mile track, everything happens so fast. The laps, the moves, the swings into the corner, that by the time you have a car sideways, Scott, or going around, if you're that guy directly behind, and you hop on the brakes, but you're going to get into them regardless, and it just really doesn't give you that much time.
Well, you talk about it happening so fast. We're already down to 41 laps to go in this 100-lap feature. So we haven't seen a ton of green lap racing here tonight. And that's one thing that has definitely helped Papini stay on the pole. Right now, we've seen him. He started on pole, and he's been the fastest car out there. But Grant Brown, also a fast car that we know. A lot of guys choosing this high line here, but Papini still holds it on the bottom.
Brown is going to choose the inside, so it's going to open the top lane for the Middletown, Rhode Island native of Jake Sylvia, one of the fastest cars all race long. Papini to the green flag, with Sylvia loose right on the outside. Here comes Brown on the bottom to chase for second place. Dylan Calabro has found his way back to fourth with Deegan Smith right behind, challenging on the bottom. We're going to complete this lap, 38 to go.
Papini secures his lead. Now Jake Sylvia up into second from the outside. Grant Brown now down to third after picking the inside. These top three cars are single file, but back behind them, Deegan Smith taking away fourth from Dylan Calabro. Then Bradley Stefane having trouble from the start. That's your sixth position.
Randy Sargent is going to get into your leader, Papini, who spins around. That was a lap car in Sargent, who was getting out of the way, but then hip checked the 11, and the dominant driver all night long creates the caution at lap 65.
Man, Papini has got to be fuming as we'll take a look back at what happened. Papini on the bottom in that 11 car, Randy Sargent in that blue 17 car. He goes to the bottom to get out of the way, but can't slow the car down enough. Comes right up into that 11 of Papini.
Look at everyone having to basically hit the outside wall in 3 and 4 to avoid the spinning Papini. He's going to retain his track position, so he's going to stay up front, but this is the big blow. The lap car in Sargent going up the track. Papini is not happy with that at all. He is over the radio right now expressing his displeasure, even though he's going to stay in the lead. So I guess sort of bittersweet there, Scott, because you saw what a lap traffic car can do to you there. Something else happens there, you might lose all your track position. And as a result of his words over the radio, Papini has been removed by race control.
Whoa, this is what we talked about. This is what we talked about those rules. We were like, MRL was going to crack down this season about their professionalism throughout their race leagues and throughout their drivers and everyone behind the scenes. So this is why we'll see Alex Papini removed for some of the things he said over the radio. But wow, shows you how you just have to have some professionalism. But that really stinks for Alex Papini.
It's one of those tasks that Jake Sylvia has to take on as director of lead competition here at MRL, and he's the driver in the race lead now with Deegan Smith on the high side, wiggling out of 4, tags the wall but keeps the race car stable. It's going to be 30 laps to go when we cross the line next. Battle for third, Grant Brown with Dylan Calabro, Stefane with a spin in 4.
Well, Jake Sylvia has done a great job as that director of league competition. No caution there for that spin. Jake Sylvia now in first with Deegan Smith hunting on his rear bumper. Almost side by side. They're almost going to make contact. He's just going to move a lap car in the way. That's Weissman.
There are multiple cars sideways. It was Weissman, and then it was Calabro. Now it's Grout, and then it was Muller. So many drivers sideways, and yet the caution does not wave. Sylvia, an onboard look with Smith right behind, now with the 3 car, who's the race leader. 27 to go as they catch up to Jake Grout, the lap machine in 9th.
Smith has a moment there, loses ground on Sylvia, then has a second moment. He's lost almost 7/10 back to the leader now. Sylvia has a lot of clean track now.
He's got the 2 lap cars ahead, though, that he has to really watch for, and it is Bradley Stefani, the 89, and then the 12 car of Jake Grout. So if you're Jake Sylvia, the race leader, you got to be really careful in these last 25 laps. And speaking of how fast it is to drive around Slinger Speedway to complete revolutions, well, telemetry tells us if we go the next 4.5 minutes under green, this race is over. Sylvia ahead by half a second.
Takes just under 15 seconds to complete a lap here, almost 12 seconds a lap. Sylvia got past the lap car of Stefan with no issues. Stefan went high and all the way out of the way. Sylvia just has to make consistent, clean laps now, as we'll see the battle. Chris Story now on the back of, I believe it is, oh, excuse me, I'm missing my charts, on the back of Grant Brown, trying to take away third.
He's going to get into
Contact.
Brown is up the racetrack and around into Story. Is that going to be the caution with 21 to go? Yes, it is.
Wow, Story was a lot faster than the 14 of Grant Brown there. Tried to take it on the outside and kept squeezing down that 14 of Brown. We'll take a look back at what happened. Story charges around, tries to get to the outside, unable to do it. They enter 3 and 4 side by side here, and Story just nudges him on the outside, and that gets Grant Brown loose.
They got really all out of shape as there's the first bit of touching that gets the Grant Brown machine out of shape and up the racetrack. There's nowhere for Story to go as Brown goes for the slide, just gives him the extra tap for good measure. That's the yellow. We anticipated, Scott, with how many spins we had in one half lap, and the caution did not come out. I imagine there for Brown, they weren't going to throw the yellow, but they do. They are going to give Chris Story the end of line penalty because he caused the yellow. And with that, we're going to have a restart under 16 laps to go, Scott, with Jake Sylvia up front.
Well, Jake Sylvia started back in 9th for this race, so started back in the field because of the invert, was about mid-pack after his heat race, but through Alex Papini's disconnection, through other guys' spins and all these things happening, he has cycled out to the lead. But not only has he cycled out to the lead, he's been able to hold it. Now, Deegan Smith, though, has been fast.
He really has been, but how can he get around Sylvia, who's one of the best cars on the racetrack? Sylvia's going to use the bottom on the choose cone, Smith up top.
Very hard to pass here. Like we've seen, if you can protect that bottom, well, there's almost no way to get around on the top, and you've got to be careful to not spin the guy in front of you and get that EOL.
Green flag in the air, 15 to go, spinner in the back, and it's Brett.
Oh, contact!
And there are the leaders, Sylvia and Smith into the wall. Smith comes to a halt in turn 2, hoping for the caution. Calabro, in essence, is going to take the lead. Unbelievable.
Smith was on the outside of Sylvia, squeezed him down, and they got together, sent Deegan Smith into the wall, and slowed Sylvia down. Now Dylan Calabro into the lead, followed by Grant Brown.
A lot of drama between your leaders. Weissman up the track to get out of the way of the lead lap machines. Now a car spun. It's Story with Weissman and Jake Grout. They're all going to try and recuperate, but Grout goes right back down to the track into Deegan Smith. Oh boy, that's an ugly yellow.
Man, wow, this is just anything could happen. You gotta survive.
Another look at what happened. It started with Weissman and Story and Grout. 3 wide at the exit of 2. That doesn't really work here, Scott, does it?
Not at all. 2 wide barely works here, so 3 wide definitely not. As we'll take a look back here, looking at Story on the inside of Grout here. Then Weissman goes up high as a lap car. They exit the turn 3 wide, and there just was not enough room.
Just seemed like accidental 3 wide. Weissman was just trying to get out of the way, didn't really want to hit anybody else, but he got right off the corner as soon as Grout and Story were there. They come up the hill at the same time, and there's the contact that sends the 67 spinning like a top on the back straightaway, that 20 degrees of banking, and then as Grout comes back up the racetrack, Weissman almost hits him, but then Grout goes down into Story again, and Deegan Smith, who was all the way at the back of all of this, is going to slam into Grout, forcing Jake Grout in the 12 to be out of this race. Now we only have 6 cars on the lead lap with 9 to go.
Well, it makes sense after all the incidents we've had and just how short this track is. I mean, even under caution, 1 lap takes 22 seconds. So if you go to the pits at all, you're immediately going to be 1 lap down, even if you just roll through. If you need some damage fixing, man, you're going to be 3, 4, 5. I mean, we've got cars 7, 26, 31, 32, 59 laps down. So it just goes to show that if you get into an incident and you've got damage, man, if you go to pit road, it is over.
Well, this is it. Final 6 laps from Slinger. In the All-Star Shootout Series, it's Brown and Calabro to the green. Sylvia and Story back in row number 2. Calabro washes up the track. There's Brown to take the lead away. Coming to 5 to go.
Sylvia spinning.
Goes for the spin, gets into Story.
Still green right now. Oh, Weissman into Sylvia. There, he's up and over. Caution is out.
Sylvia, the spin, and everyone got into him, and Sylvia goes for a tumble after Weissman T-boned him exiting turn 2. Another ugly accident, and another look at the replay. Sylvia on the bottom, gets loose out of 4, him and his Story. Scott, what's happened here?
Well, looks like Sylvia right on the bottom of Story here behind him. Deegan Smith gets loose, but looks like there might have been just the tiniest bit of contact between Sylvia and Story. Got him loose down to the bottom. Then he gets stopped right at the bottom of the track. Weissman has nowhere to go. We'll take another look here from the perspective of, I believe it was Weissman. Yes, looking right here, spins in front of the field. Nowhere for Weissman to go.
Weissman didn't hop on the brakes and just got right into Sylvia. Goes for a spin and then a tumble. Just goes for a flip. I think if we counted a flip counter at Slinger tonight, we'd probably have, what, 3, 4?
Oh, I think we're at least 6. I think 6 for sure.
I imagine 3 to 4, but we're going to extend this race. First attempt of 3 at a green-white checkered here at Slinger Speedway. Grant Brown is somehow the leader out of all of this. Got a power on the outside of Dylan Calabro. Then it's Chris Story in 3rd, Brent McCoy in 4th, and Jake Sylvia. Despite the flip, he still has a functioning race car, and he's going to be running inside the top 5. So rules are here in a green-white checkered scenario. We'll go green with 2 laps to go. If we get a caution before the white flag is displayed, we will double them up and do it all over again. We have those 3 attempts. If we go through all 3 attempts and the caution comes out before the white flag is displayed, then we are going to end the race under yellow. However, if the leader does take the white flag, this race is official no matter what goes down. 2 remaining from Slinger. Grant Brown and Dylan Calabro to the green.
Grant Brown chooses the inside. Got the lead on the outside last time. Now Dylan Calabro is around. Gets corrected by Story. We stay green. Story into 2nd. Jake Sylvia into 3rd. But Grant Brown takes the white flag with 1 to go.
Story saved the potential caution to get us into overtime. Attempt number 2. Grant Brown, the Heat 2 winner, is going to pull away over Chris Story and take the first race of the All-Star Shootout Series.
I don't even have many words for how that race went. I had fun. I loved watching it, but man, what a win for Grant Brown. Absolutely fought through the field, started all the way back in almost, I believe it was 14th, so, or 15th it was, so started all the way in the back, was able to climb through the field as all the wrecks happened, and was able to get the win.
So we go from Josh Parrish, who started 14th in the feature at Irwindale just a little while ago, to the race win, and Grant Brown, who starts 2nd to last in the feature from Slinger tonight. Off the invert is your race winner after 100 laps, and there he is parking it fittingly in the Slinger victory lane. Actually, he's going to do another spin around, but that's the victory lane to park at. He's going to get closer to the start-finish line and have a nice photo with a Grant Brown with a pretty beat-up race car, but is able to get the win after 103 laps and 1 green-white checkered attempt. Grant Brown is the winner over Chris Story in the 67. It's crazy to see how much attrition mattered in this race, because Chris Story was involved in almost everything tonight and somehow ends up with a 2nd place run. Jake Sylvia ends up as the 3rd place finisher. Brent McCoy, many spins in this race, but survives for 4th place. Deegan Smith, the top 5 run, then Dylan Calabro in 6th. Then 7th place, Michael Weissman, the first car a lap down. Bradley Stefane, 3 laps down in 8th. Jake Grout in 9th, and Alex Papini to round out the top 10.
Then back in 11th, we had the 17 of Randy Sargent, 41 laps down, followed by Ed Papineau. Then that 78 car of Tyler Muller, 55 laps down, saw him in second at one point in this race, but had issues. Then we had in 14th Kyle Adams, then Justin Crow and Jared Sutherland, 102 laps down to finish out this race.
Let's see if we can get a word with Grant Brown, the race winner here from the virtual Slinger Speedway in the first race of the 2024 All-Star Shootout Series here in the Misfit Racing League. I do not believe we have Brown with us right now. Yes, we do. From Victory Lane, it's Grant Brown. Grant, how was that one? How difficult was it? I imagine it was crazy to race from.
Yeah. I enjoy Slinger. It's definitely a hard car track combo with these SRX cars. They're definitely not like the late models I'm used to running around here, so definitely made for a challenge.
And the challenge was starting 15th in a 16-car field with so many cautions and a lot of beat-up race cars, and you end up at the front in the winning lap. So I want to ask if any of the heat racing helped you at all to understand this track and racing around the pack a little more, or was it just finding your way even through all of the smoke and all of the carnage tonight?
It kind of went out the window a little bit. We got some heavy left front damage about midway through the race, and it really changed the feel of the race car. I was getting slightly loose, and then it got very tight because of the damage, so could have been my saving grace, possibly. I'm not sure. I know the rear tires were definitely nearing the end of their heat cycles multiple times, and were unhappy.
Well, nonetheless, it's a win in this 2024 All-Star Shootout Series. You were one of the locked-in drivers regardless of what happened in the heats and qualifying and all that. So with this win tonight, you move on to the next race, May 6th at Eldora Speedway, our first of two short track dirt races of the season. What are your thoughts about that one?
I feel more confident on the dirt than I do the asphalt, to be completely honest. I think we'll have a good piece for it.
Well, Grant, we certainly appreciate the time. It was a wild one here from Slinger, but you come out on top regardless of everything that happened. On behalf of our broadcast team, congratulations on the win in the All-Star Shootout Series from Slinger, and hopefully we see you at Eldora soon.
Thank you. Looking forward to it.
That is Grant Brown, the race winner here at Slinger Speedway over the 103-lap feature. We'll turn to second place where it is Chris Story, joined by Scott Shive.
Chris Story, what an effort. What a race. You had a race. That's what you had. Take me through that race just with this car, this SRX car here at Slinger. Take me through today. We saw a lot of incidents. We saw a lot of cautions. Just take me through how you operated through that.
Well, kind of raced without a care, but with a care at the same time, you know. I knew that coming to Slinger, no matter what's going to be tight racing, it's going to be door banging, bunch of cautions. That's how Slinger is. I mean, it's just a short track, you know. I mean, I raced there a couple times now in real life, and same way. Didn't expect it to be that impactful, though. I decided to take tires, and I think that really gave me an effort there at the end. I don't know if the tires really helped at the end, but I really do think they did. I had a really nice drive out there.
Well, no matter what helped you out there, was it your driving or the tires, you got back up to second. One thing I was talking about on the broadcast was we had a doubleheader race tonight. We started at Irwindale in the late model stock, and we transferred over here to the SRX at Slinger. Take me through the mindset of a driver as you have to switch up your driving style and how those two cars drive differently. Take me through how you do that so quickly.
I don't know, them SRX cars, you throw the nutsack over your shoulder and you just gun-ho with that. And this thing, you have to be really patient, very gentle with it. You know, I mean, these things they feel like they have GM brakes and they don't stop. And they really, really sluggish in the center, and you have to just wait and have to roll the throttle, man. I mean, it was a big change. I mean, I wish that first race went better for me, but kind of just screwed myself over in that first race. But I'm glad I came back and bounced back for the second.
Well, definitely looking really good here in the first race of this All-Star Shootout Series. Next month, for May 6th, we're going to Eldora. That's our first dirt race for this SRX All-Star Shootout Series. How are you feeling about that?
I'm feeling pretty good. I mean, I should hopefully get this pit stop 67 sharp car in victory lane and that. I mean, I think I'm really confident on dirt. I have a lot of laps on it now and enjoy these cars on dirt. I think these cars are better on dirt than asphalt, so I think I should be able to get it done pretty good. It's all about how smooth we can be.
Well, story feels good. Before I let you go, anyone you'd like to thank tonight?
I'd like to thank Pit Stop 67, Straight Fascia, and Sharp Design. Hashtag Great Sharp.
Well, there we go. That's your second place finisher, Chris Story, in that Pit Stop 67. Up next, we'll have that 0 of Jake Sylvia with Kenneth.
Here we are with Jake Sylvia, who comes across the line third. Jake, you had a flip, but then you finish in the podium with a really fast race car regardless. How can you describe the night from Slinger?
Oh, I don't even know. I was already tired after the last race, so I didn't have much practice, and I was just kind of sending it and see what would happen. It took me a little bit to warm up to it, but it was fun. One of those survival tracks, new car on the sim. It's not easy, and to be around a quarter-mile high bank that's tight like that, it was just we kind of knew it was going to be going into it. So I went into there expecting a little bit of what we got and kind of prepared for it, but I don't think I could have prepared for getting flipped upside down, race for the lead, wrecking, being in the lead, locking doors to somebody, going up to the wall, and then coming back from that all the way back up to third. So that was fun, that's for sure.
It's how miraculous a race like this was, over 103 laps. But I wanted to know your impression as someone who's driven a lot of short track cars on the iRacing service and understands the essence of short track racing. What was this car like? It's a new addition to the short track list of cars on the sim. So how did this one drive, not only at Slinger, but in the experience you've had with it so far?
I'll be honest, I don't like it. I'm not too big of a fan. It puts on good racing. It doesn't fit my driving style. It's kind of like the two things I don't like, and that's a tight car and an overly loose car, and it does both at the same time. Very, very odd. It's hard to drive. I will say, like, they did a great job on giving us a talent-based car. You know, we haven't had that at all. Everything recently that we've gotten has been, you know, easy. The late model stock is very easy on throttle. When, you know, all the cup stuff and everything like that, back when we had the Gen 6, everything was, you know, kind of everything was dimmed down and made everything really easy in the NASCAR side and the short track side. So it is nice to see a very difficult car, but with that, it is difficult, and I'm not the greatest. So, you know, for me to have both of my bad sides come out in one car and the same corner every lap, it's not easy.
Still, though, a third place effort at the end of this one from Slinger Speedway, and the All-Star Shootout Series heads next month to Eldora, the first of two dirt track races on the season. So any early impressions on how that one's going to fare?
I like it a lot more there. The dirt is where I'm good at. I'm an asphalt guy in real life. I'm an asphalt guy at heart on here, but these last about year and a half to 2 years, I've been taking the dirt stuff a lot more serious. That's where I'm more comfortable. I definitely think, hopefully, I'll be going out there and trying to win. Obviously, you never know, but I have done more dirt racing with the car than I have asphalt. And it is great. Similar to how the trucks are, just a lot more power and a lot more of a boat. So they're definitely a lot of fun to sling around on the edge all the time. So hopefully the racing will be really good, and hopefully I'll be back here with you guys.
Well, that'll be great to watch. Two pretty good finishes throughout the Summer Series race here, and then the Slinger Speedway All-Star Shootout Series race at Slinger right after that. Great finishes on both ends, Jake. We certainly appreciate the time, and on behalf of the broadcast team, congratulations on the podium here from Slinger. Hope to see you in early May for Eldora in the All-Star Shootout Series.
Thank you.
That is Jake Sylvia rounding out your top three here from Slinger Speedway. A long show tonight with two great short track races, one at Irwindale and one at Slinger. Two very different ones, in fact, with two different cars. Your impressions and overall thoughts, Scott, about this night of short track racing?
Man, again, I had a great time. It was so awesome to watch. You know, I love being up here every time we're in the booth, and I love these short track series with MRL. Again, they always do such a great job of putting stuff together and putting these events on. I'm really excited about the SRX series. I think tonight we had a difficult one at Slinger, and like Jake Sylvia said, they knew that going in, that it was going to be kind of like what we just saw. But we're going to see next week at Eldora. A lot of the guys are really a lot more excited about that one, and that they believe this SRX series car works best. So I think we're going to really see the true side of that car next week. And then we go over to, I believe it's Stafford for the late model stock series for the summer touring series. And I'm excited about that one as well, because Stafford is so cool. And like Dylan Calabro said, it eats tires away. So it's going to really challenge these drivers to take on those both in a month.
You got two different challenges. With Stafford, you have a larger track that does eat up the tires and will reward a lot of the skill with the setup. And then comes a dirt track in Eldora for the SRX cars in this All-Star Shootout series. So you've got both disciplines of racing on display. That'll come your way in early May 6th. That'll be the first Monday of that month. We'll have the coverage, hopefully here on Podium Esports for you. But what a night it was on the short track scene from iRacing, Slinger, and then Irwindale. Both of them, we had a lot of fun covering those. And congratulations to Josh Parrish on winning the first race of the Summer Touring Series, and for Grant Brown for winning the first event of the All-Star Shootout Series. For the Misfit Racing League, for Kyle Adams and the staff at MRL for making this happen, and for our entire crew on the broadcast tonight on Podium Esports, for our producer Ryan Bauer and my colleague in the booth Scott Shive, I'm Kenneth Bueno saying so long and good night from Slinger. We'll see you hopefully in early May for the rest of the All-Star Shootout Series and the Misfit Racing League Touring Summer Series.